Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2015 World Championship Series Global Finals. We're finally here. It's been a long year, but we're excited to bring you live coverage from California. We're in the Burbank ESL studios, and joining me on the couch to help bring the coverage over the next 12 hours, because that's the day we have, is TLO from Team Liquid, is our resident expert and complainer and arguer throughout the day.
Non-conformist.
I believe, right?
Yeah, that's a professional. It's a professional term. I can agree with that.
Starting off the day strong. We have also In Control, who's joining us again for another tournament. Happy to have you here, and looking forward to your jokes and your expert analysis.
Anything else?
That's it. That's why you're here.
No, there's a third one.
Your general presence on the couch.
Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Dario.
That's why he's here. I'm and of course, Roddy, who's going to be jumping in and out of casting throughout the day, as you are the number one. And we're happy to have the number one here. What would it be, a StarCraft tournament without Roddy?
Well, streamer, not caster.
I think it would still be pretty all right, Sean, in all honesty. But
yeah?
I appreciate the kind words.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun on this couch, but of course it is all serious as we're here for the global finals of the World Championship Series. And before we jump into the specifics, let's take a bit of a look at what the WCS has been so far this year.
The World Championship Series, or WCS, is the heart of competitive StarCraft 2. The best players in the world compete in multi-season competition to win their share of $1.6 million in prize money, as well as WCS points. The points are the backbone of the WCS that represent each player's performance throughout the year. This leads into the global finals, the World Championship of StarCraft 2. The WCS Premier League hosts the best players living outside of Korea. The first step to becoming a Premier League player is competing in a regional qualifier. There are 6 regions through which players can compete for the opportunity to play. The very best from each region will then qualify for Challenger, the next stage of competition. Once in Challenger, players must compete in a single match against players who represented their region in the previous season. The best 32 players from those 6 regions will then travel to compete in the Premier League, fighting to be a WCS champion and increasing their chance to play at the global finals. Korea also offers opportunities to all players to compete in the WCS system through 2 open individual leagues, the GSL and Star League. Players may simultaneously compete in both leagues, offering opportunities to display their skills in the most competitive region. In combination with the official leagues, the WCS, GSL and Star League, players can also travel and compete in global events. Independent StarCraft 2 tournaments hosted by partnered organizations. Each global event in the circuit awards additional points, making them an important milestone in achieving a spot at the global finals. The global finals will take place at BlizzCon in Anaheim, California. The top 16 players with the most points will compete to find out who is the world champion of StarCraft 2.
Hopefully you're fully understanding the system of the World Championship Series. 3 long seasons of both WCS, GSL and Star League with lots of events around the world. And now we're here at the global finals for the best 16 in the world. And the tournament format that we have, Rotti, is a brutal one. It's going to be a lot of fun for us. It's obviously a ton of fun for spectators. Single elimination bracket, every match, every single map. Incredibly important.
Yep, no time to mess around. You lose one time, you can go home, or well, you can stick around for a little bit, but it's definitely not as fun as still being part of the tournament. And this makes it better for us, Sean. There is no such thing as holding back or saving strategies for a later phase in the tournament. No, you need to bring everything right here, right now. If you're down 2 maps, you know, you're looking at the verge of being eliminated.
And players have been have known who they're playing against for a very, very long time now. You know, they've had a lot of time to prepare for this tournament, and here's a man that knows all about preparation.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it makes all the difference. It can swing up a matchup, which is usually favored towards one player into the favor of another. Because sometimes it's harder to be the favored. Because you're just going to think, okay, I should just do whatever I always do, because that's going to make me succeed. But then the other guy can abuse that fact and exploit you a little bit.
And it is the tournament, Jeff. I mean, it is, right?
Oh,
It's the words, the global finals and BlizzCon is on every fan's tongue throughout the year. It's always the build-up, the road to, and we're finally here, and it's an exciting moment for all of us.
It's the big championship, and I think just BlizzCon itself holds kind of a lot of esteem and regard. Like, In the past, they gave away freaking swords, man. It's pretty incredible. It's one of the only terms we can get a sword at it. But also, I think we know definitively this is the last HOTS tournament. This is the HOTS championship. So when Kevin says, don't hide any strategies, yeah, really don't. Because the game's done after this. Like, don't be like, nah, I got
Go to that
something.
online cup next week he's got to play in.
Nah, this is it. So, you know, Legacy Void is very different. So I'm just really happy that we get to end on a BlizzCon, throw it away. And I got to go back to your comment, too, about this being, we've been making this joke off camera, but, like, these are actually 16 of the absolute best. I think you would make an argument that maybe FanTaSy, maybe Lilbo kind of snuck in there at the end. Good for them.
Yeah.
We're missing maybe a Dark, but to be brutally honest, we're casters at every tournament are like, 32 of the best Finnish players we've ever had at a tournament. Like, nah, this time, yeah, it's pretty real. So I'm super stoked.
It's such an exciting prospect, too, with these 16 players that are fighting for so much money as well. Of course, they're thinking about their first opponent, but $250,000 up for grabs. You don't see this very often. You kind of see it once a year. And it's $100,000 first place, which is life-changing amounts of money. A lot of these guys have already made that, actually, but there's some of them that haven't. And
but in one tournament. Incredible.
One tournament. This is just 3 days worth of action. But if you are the truly best player, you're going to be walking away with $100,000.
I mean, just to put things in perspective, to get $5,000, you often have to be the runner-up at a StarCraft 2 tournament. You get that just for making it here, which shows how prestigious it is to even compete over here at this stage.
But the thing is, Tilo, I mean, these players, like yourself, when you play in tournaments, you don't really think about the money right now. It's obviously about how far you can go. It's about the preparation that you've put into this.
Yeah, I don't think most people are really thinking, okay, next round, if I make it one more step, I'm going to double up my money. Or...
I would be.
Right, but that's why you're a caster now, because you're mostly thinking about the money.
Sean wouldn't just be thinking about it, he's thinking about how to spend it already.
Yeah. so I'm coming in, I've already got 5K, I've already spent that. I haven't got it yet, but I've already spent it.
Well, I like what Darius said actually off camera. We were talking about this very subject, and he said that a lot of times prize money is actually a distraction. It's one of the things you want to close off from thinking about, because there is a lot of pressure. You say life-changing, $100,000 in one weekend is actually life-changing.
That's a house.
Well,
it's a deposit on
it
a house.
depends on the country,
maybe. I live in San Francisco, so it would buy like a tenth of a house. The point is, it's gigantic. So a lot of these players need to literally be like, no. Focus on herO. Focus on innovation. Like, these are the guys I have to beat. And then afterwards, that voice creeps in and is like, hey, you just earned like $40,000. It's like, you know, like, shut up, voice, and you focus back on the games. That's what you have to do.
And they got some time to be able to play this tournament as well. I mean, they've already had a month in preparation for today, which is the round of 16, and then we have another couple of days where we make the transit over to Anaheim, where we'll be going to BlizzCon, which, of course, everyone's always excited about. Not just StarCraft, but every other Blizzard title, every Blizzard fan. It's everything. It's the year coming to its end. And that, of course, is going to be on November 6th and 7th, where we'll play the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and eventually crown the 2015 World Champion. In 2012, it was parting. The following year, SOS, and last year, Life. Who is it going to be this year, though?
I have no idea, Sean. I mean, we often say that, like, oh, I have no idea who's going to win it, and then then there is herO, and then a bunch of people that have never taken a map of herO. You know, it's like, well, actually, I do think I kind of know who's going to win. With this top 16, it's like Jeff said. You know, there are 14 guys that are actually pretty much considered to be the top 14 players in the world, and of course, you can always make a case for your favorite player, or maybe one there, but it's very difficult to predict this one. I mean, we've got all three previous world champs here. Like, how cool is that?
So crazy.
Parting, who won in China, SOS, who won here in 2013, and Life won here. I mean, like, often they say, like, StarCraft is kind of random, or it's really hard to stay on top for a long time. Well, those three guys, they're proving the opposite by being here again. I think it's really sick.
You're right, Roddy.
I do it in like 30 seconds this time. Go ahead and answer the question.
Okay, innovation. I think innovation is going to take it.
He's right. He actually got it right.
It's been a long year. We've had 3 seasons of GSL, 3 seasons of Star League, 3 seasons of course, GSL. And here we are for the global finals. But before we move forward to look at the first game, let's remind ourselves of how really awesome this year was. The World Championship Series, the lifeblood of competitive StarCraft for thousands around the world. Hundreds of players took part in the WCS over the past year, but 3 seasons of competition have narrowed the field down to the top 16. This is how it played out. In Season 1, the WCS travelled to France in search for the year's first champion, and with few upsets, the favourites were able to secure their spots in the playoffs. In the grand final, we saw some excellent games between Pult and Hydra, ending with a remarkable comeback victory for Captain America.
But this base is so important for Hydra! GG!
Over in Korea, the GSL featured a close final between Parting and the reigning world champion Life. When the dust settled, Life had added another championship title to his collection. Running simultaneously to the GSL, the first season of Star League took place, where Maru won his second StarCraft championship with a convincing 4-1 victory over Dream. Throughout the year, we saw several players winning lots of points in WCS global events, most notably Zest, who returned to form and won the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. For Season 2, the next stop on the road to BlizzCon was Toronto, Canada. This season saw the rise of the new European talent, including the young French star Lilbo, who dominated fellow European players to advance to the grand final. On the other side of the bracket, Hydra took revenge against Pult in a rematch from the Season 1 grand final. Hydra then went on to beat Lilbo 4-2 to secure his first title in StarCraft 2. The GSL had some surprising results as older faces returned to the spotlight, including Biol, now considered to be one of the best Zergs in the world. He faced off against Rain in the grand final, but was bested by the experienced Protoss player. In Star League, Dream again found himself in the grand final, this time against Classic, who was able to deny Dream his first StarCraft 2 title with a 4-1 victory. Season 3, the final WCS season of 2015, was also one of the most memorable seasons of all time. The playoffs were held in Krakow, Poland, where hometown Mana fought his way to the grand final. There he met Season 2 finalist Lilbo, who would dethrone the Season 2 champion Hydra in the quarterfinals. Despite the crowd cheering on Mana, Lilbo came out on top and became the first European player to win a WCS title. In Korea, the legendary Terran player Innovation performed better than ever before, crushing the competition to arrive in the grand final. There he matched up against Season 2 finalist Biol, but Innovation was on another level. He took home his second GSL title and is now widely considered a big favourite to challenge for the World Championship title at BlizzCon. herO, another player looking to challenge for the title, comes in as the #1 ranked player in the WCS system, gathering more points than any other. He won 3 WCS championships in the last 12 months, starting at the Intel Extreme Masters in San Jose, followed by the first Kesper Cup of 2015. The year couldn't have ended in a more dramatic way, as Hyun unbelievably tied FanTaSy for 16th place in the WCS rankings. Due to his fantastic result at DreamHack Stockholm, the two were then forced to play in a best-of-5 tiebreaker match to decide which one would compete at the global finals. FanTaSy deflected the aggressive Zerg, securing his position. The road to the global finals is now complete. 16 players have locked in their positions among the best in the world. The battle now begins, where only one will be crowned world champion.
Thank you very much, Sean. Back here on the couch, and we will find out which one of these players will be crowned world champion. An excellent recap there by myself. Yeah, I was, did the explanation video earlier on as well. Thinking about jumping up and casting instead of Clara
I'm excited
as well.
When the BlizzCon song is performed by a choir of you, re-recorded over and over again.
You guys think Linkin Park's coming?
It's actually Sean.
It's me.
It's Sean every time.
That's the best way. It's. I mean, I have another Sean coming to the other event as well, day 9.
Yep.
But let's move our attention now to the 16 players. They've obviously played all year long now. They've gathered the points that they've wanted to gather, and they come into the standings now from rank 1 to rank 16 in a very obvious format: 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15, and so on. But herO, it's herO here, head and shoulders above the rest, and that is a massive margin.
It is, first of all, going to give him a lot of confidence. Obviously, he's been performing well throughout the year. But also, it gives him a huge edge because arguably, he's playing against one of the weaker players on the field, FanTaSy.
You said that so direct.
You belong
You
on this
looked
couch,
into
buddy.
my eyes as you said
I could
that.
see a career of you doing analysis. And
But,
talking like
Roddy,
that.
what a great set of players, right? It's absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely, Sean. I was a little upset that Dario just agreed with you. He has never agreed with me.
Yeah, that's a
actually.
little bit weird.
Like, I kind of expect him to say, like, well, Sean, 1,900 points.
Well, he's sitting
That's
next to me.
not really head and shoulders above the rest.
You know,
Well, Sean and I go
If we
way
look at
back.
it percentage-wise.
No, I do really agree though. Like I felt in the previous years, whenever we looked at this top 16, I kind of was like, why do we even bring it up? Because I felt like the rankings 1, 2, 3, 4 was often weaker than like 11, 12, 13, 14, where you had the top performance of the GSL. But this year they had 2 leagues, and I feel that the top 4, top 5 actually represents, 5, 6 of the strongest players right now. And I think he makes a very valid point. FanTaSy is really good, but herO will probably think, I'm pretty happy with FanTaSy over here.
I'll be the Dario. Okay, so yeah, it is. It's a big deal, and getting all those points is cool. But let us not forget that it doesn't necessarily reflect who's the hottest right now. Like herO, right now, probably not the most intensely heated player we could imagine. I think Innovation, who's still in the upper echelon of that top 16, but most recently winning the GSL, is probably the guy that everyone's calling the favorite.
I mean, when you look at that, though, it's, herO's consistency throughout the year has been rewarded is that he plays FanTaSy and Innovation plays Zest, right? I mean,
herO did just win SSL
let's see how that
Season 3.
turns out, though. Right?
I mean, he did
Innovation just 3 O's, and apparently that was okay. But if herO loses, all of a sudden it's like, what?
But I mean, I agree there with Sean as well, though. Like, it's not just the beginning of the year for herO. He won the most recent Star League. I mean, that's still pretty damn good, right?
Yeah, I mean, but Innovation also won the most recent
He dropped
GSL,
a couple maps.
so, I mean, they're both on
But
fire
FanTaSy
right
took
now.
second at the Copenhagen Spring Games earlier this year.
He
so
did.
who's the real winner now? All right.
Let's take a look at the bracket then. This is who's going to play who. If you didn't kind of work it out already, I think the obvious one was obviously herO versus FanTaSy, which is going to be our opening match of the global finals. But some of the games in the middle here are some of the tightly contested matches you could hope for. I mean, look at it. Innovation versus Zest is a fantastic series. Just one of them, but there's a bunch of them.
Well, Dario, you were saying we're going to see probably the best Zerg playing right now, right?
Yeah,
Pure Classic, right?
Pure, I would say he's currently the best. I would still love to see Life just having this insane peak that he sometimes shows, because sometimes it just happens that Life surprises everybody again and just has insane skill in his execution. But Pure is definitely more consistent and expected to go far. But Pure at the same time is also in a very difficult part of the bracket. I mean, he's going to potentially face herO in the second round.
I mean, we have so many classics, too. I like Rain Pult. Pult being kind of the Korean that went abroad and still has success up against Rain, who in the past has been one of the most solid Protosses we have. And I'm going to take the other side of Dario. Like, yeah, it'd be nice to see Life play well. At the same time, it'd be nice to see Life go down in a burning building with Lilbo at the top of it, just nonchalantly winning as a foreigner. I mean, imagine seeing him topple the champion, the defending champion, and going to that round of 8. That would be incredible.
That's the thing with the players here, and the way that the bracket's laid out is almost you could say any one of these players on a perfect form day could keep on going through that bracket, including Lilbo. You can imagine him beating Life on a perfect day. Life hasn't been performing as well, and it really does show the skill level between these 16 players.
They're all champions.
They're all champions.
Yeah, they're all very good. I do think that Dario made a very good point that Pure has been the most consistent Zerg. But if you look at his bracket, he could arguably have the hardest bracket in history or something. Like, if he would go past Classic, then maybe herO, and then he gets maybe Zest Innovation, the winner of that series, or even a Life that's on fire if he makes it that far. I mean, that's one hell of a bracket. Like, Bjorn didn't get lucky when it came to where he is.
I like how we're split on here with who to win, and I'm sure everyone at home is split as well. So if you do want to join us on social media, it is #WCS, as always, throughout today and next week. And let us know who you think is going to win, because it is very difficult to be able to predict a full outright winner, which leads us into the first match of the day. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, because the two players here on FanTaSy did have a couple of words to say themselves.
지금은 데드픽셀즈에서 활동하고 있는 테란 유저 판타지라고 하고요.
안녕하세요. CJ 에이스 김준호입니다. 저한테 있어서 프로게이머 생활하면서 제일 만족스러운 시기였던 것 같아요.
2015년은 저한테 큰 도전이었고, 나이는 지금 25살이고 게이머 경력은 꽤 오래됐는데 블리즈컨에 처음 오게 되어서 굉장히 설레고 기쁩니다.
국내 1티어 대회 우승이 제 최종적인 목표였는데 이번 연도에 이제 이뤘기 때문에 목표를 다시 잡았는데 그 목표가 이제 블리즈컨 우승이고
일단 준호가 아무래도 2015년 가장 잘했던 선수이고 포인트도 1등이기 때문에 쉽지 않을 것 같지만
대진표를 보고 명훈이 형이라고 한 걸 봤을 때 되게 만족스러웠고
올 때는 거의 이길 수 있다는 생각으로 많이 왔고요. 그리고 준호라고 하면은 굉장히 컨트롤도 좋고 운영도 좋은 선수라고 생각하는데 저도 이번에 연습을 많이 해가지고 많이 끌어올렸기 때문에 충분히 할 만하다고 생각하고 있어요.
현장 컨디션에 의해서 좀 달라질 것 같고 제가 우승하는 데 있어서는 16강이 좀 중요할 것 같아요.
준비를 하면 할수록 자신감이 많이 생겼고 경기장에 올 때는 미국에 올 때는 거의 이길 수 있다는 생각으로 많이 왔고요. 그리고
여기 목표를 잡자마자 여기 바로 왔기 때문에 이번에 이루기 최적의 상태인 것 같고
And here we are with the first match of the global finals. Incredibly excited. Roddy, I've got to jump right in it.
All right.
You've heard what the players have had to say. And looking at the rank, number 1 versus number 16 truly represents this match.
Yes, a lot of the matches I think are very difficult to predict, but this one, I mean, it's not saying that it's impossible for FanTaSy, but herO is a clear favorite here. You know, we all kind of expect a 3-1. Maybe some people even expect 3-0. herO has been one of the best players throughout the entirety of the year. That's why he's gathered so many points. And if you just, you know, put their achievements, you know, in perspective or put them next to each other, that's a world of difference. You know?
Yeah, I think this is one of the ones, like, this is such a close tournament. There's so many amazing players. And I agree what you said earlier, like, any one of these guys could really turn on and win it. But can FanTaSy really turn on and win it? Can he beat this guy right here, herO? Probably not. That would be like the Rudy underdog story of StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
And, it would be miraculous. I do have to say this. Well, herO's just the unstoppable juggernaut. We'll talk about him in a second. But for me, like, what's really cool about FanTaSy is I think he's been playing in elimination mode for like a month now. He had to beat Hyun to get here. He had to watch other guys qualify him for that tiebreaker match at DreamHack because he failed to do it himself. Like, he's had his back up against the wall for a while now. It wouldn't even make a good movie. It'd be so intense.
But at the same time, you make it sound like a positive, you know, that he barely made it here.
Man?
And it could give him some amount of like survivor ability, but
Yeah,
at the
but come
same
on, Dario. I mean, look at it on paper.
Right,
Every way
that's
you
what I
look
think.
at it, you know, 5...
Sorry, stop being so positive about him. Tell him, Sean. Tell him how he...
You know, herO's won 5 tournaments. This guy's won none in StarCraft 2. That is,
Exactly.
of course. He's number 1. He's number 16. herO is considered one of the best players in the world. FanTaSy is not. I mean,
it's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what was so good about it. But I have to agree with Dario and everyone. Like, I think it would be very miraculous. But what I kind of like about this, to go back to my point, to make it a positive again, is everyone's discounting FanTaSy. And that's the time when a lot of guys are like, you know what? I'm going to do a strategy that's bad, it's risky, and who cares? And I'm going to throw off this guy that in a straight-up macro versus macro game, he would beat me. And I hope he takes that approach because, like Kevin was saying earlier, best of 5 single limb, there's nowhere else to go. Like, if you just do meta backdrop, straight macro, you know, double, triple command center or whatever for free games, you might just get raffle stomped.
I mean, take a look at the maps over here as well. We can discuss those obviously in a best of 5. You know, most of the maps will be played. But let's not forget that early this year at Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, also one of the bigger tournaments throughout the year, herO was one of the overwhelming favorites. And he was kind of upset by his teammate back then, Byung, who defeated him 3-1. Same matchup and kind of the same scenario. You know, if you would have said that Byung was going to defeat herO, most people would have called you insane. So it is not impossible. It has been done before. He has lost series like this before.
Impossible.
well, Roddy, continue on. I mean, Iron Fortress, the first map between these two, surely in every single game that we see today, map number 1 is going to give so much momentum, belief, and confidence. There's many words you can put in there. This is a very important map for both.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that this is a pretty decent map for Terran for the main reason. I'm sure the cast are going to talk about it as well, but there is no ramp going inside the natural, which often is a little better for Terran. You know, you don't have to worry about high ground vision. You can maybe be a little more cheeky. Also a lot of surface area in the main base. I kind of feel like if FanTaSy wants to have a realistic shot at winning this series, you know, picking up Iron Fortress would be an excellent start, obviously, going up 1-0, but it's just one of those maps that, you know, is a little better for Terran than some of the other maps out there.
Funnily enough, though, the stats show that Protoss is actually winning a few more games than Terran there, which is a little bit surprising to me, but I see a lot of really strong 2-base builds on Iron Fortress as well. So maybe because of that, actually, the map is not that bad for Protoss. Because late game, I agree, Terran is probably performing better there. But it's hard to actually get there as well. Because the third base is also very far for Terran. And it's not a joke to take it.
It's 80 to 75. So I agreed with Kevin. Like when Kevin was saying this would be a good map for him to start off on. I'm like, yeah, it's a terrible map for Protoss. The drops are so strong here. But as you said, in the numbers, it's actually kind of even. And I think it is because that third is hard for Terran to hold, and there are so many two-base timing attacks from Protoss as well.
Look at the predictions then. So we've going to be doing this the same like we did for Season 3 of WCS, is following the predictions. And this is us on the couch and, of course, the casters, Todd and Kalaris, and it is a whitewash in favor of herO.
Oh, wow.
Well, we saw this a couple times in Katowice. Now I'm starting to get worried. You know, if it was just me going for herO, but how many times didn't we go 8-0 or 0-8 in Katowice? But it would be very surprising for us all to be wrong here.
I think if FanTaSy turns around and wins this 3-0, we just gotta, I think, leave.
We just step up. We call in the real cast.
I don't feel that bad. I don't feel that.
All right, taste toasters and day 9. Get here fast.
Oh, they're trying. But no, every time that happens, I actually like that because those upsets are kind of what makes StarCraft really cool, because so much of StarCraft is like, we're like, oh, well, here's the build they're going to do. It's very predictable on this map, and here's the matchup. This guy's way better than that guy. But it's those upsets that really give it the flavor. And I actually, if FanTaSy did disrupt this tournament that way, that'd be really cool.
And there definitely will be upsets. It's just which series is it going to be today. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for your insight. And we'll be getting a lot more from you two. And I look forward to hearing you cast a little bit later on, Roddy. But it is now time to start the first match here of the Global Finals. Let's head over to the commentary team. Of course, it's our Heroes of the Stormcasters, Todd and Kalaris.
Thank you very much. The highest point earner of all time here in the WCS in herO, going up against FanTaSy, who scraped by to get into this top 16 and now going to fight off against one another. This is, well, I was going to go down the David and Goliath path, but in the end, it's a very, very tall order here for FanTaSy.
Yeah, a lot of people have called FanTaSy a sacrificial lamb here, and going up against the Titan that is herO, it's going to be tough, but if you look at the recent history and how both players have been doing, they don't actually seem that far apart from each other. But I'll elaborate a little bit more on that once we jump into the game here.
That's true. We'll be getting in very soon. Our first map will be Iron Fortress between these two. And already very excited to get the Global Finals opening week underway here. Because in the end, every single series counts. Every single map counts. There is no double elimination. This is all single, all down the same path. One of these guys will already be going home as we get into our first game here in this best of 5 between the rank #1 player and rank 16. And spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Terran representing Dead Pixels. It is FanTaSy. Having played a great series against Hyun to get here, winning out 3-2 in the end of all of that. And then spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner, earning 7,900 points in the entire season. It is CJ Enters herO, representing his team extremely strongly during the entirety of the year.
Absolutely. herO is a pro gamer who has earned himself over $150,000 during his career. FanTaSy, only 33,000, and I say only 33,000 for a player of his caliber. It seems really low in StarCraft 2. But if you look at his Brood War history, $123,000. So there's a big difference in terms of impact that he's had in the scene and success across both games here. Definitely hasn't found the same success in StarCraft 2 as he did in Brood War.
That's right. I think for FanTaSy, he was 2010 champion back then, and then he also then had another 2 MSLs go over towards him, which he got defeated by Jangbi overall in both of them, I think. But one thing's for sure is that he really was at the top when it came to Brood War. Hasn't really kind of worked out as well over in StarCraft 2. But herO, meanwhile, he's been here forever. I mean, 3 times Intel Extreme Masters champion. Nobody else has ever been able to do that. I mean, the numbers you quote alone, I think herO won around $34,000 in the SSL Championship alone. So he won the entirety of what FanTaSy has earned in one tournament.
Yeah, it sounds like almost the story of my life there. But yeah, these two going up against each other like this in the first round, this really makes for a great matchup stylistically as well, because you have herO, a guy that can mix it up very nicely, that doesn't necessarily lean more towards the cheesier side of things in Protoss versus Terran, and then you have FanTaSy, a guy who loves his macro, he can also mix in a lot of different builds himself. He's not one of those guys, say for example, closer to innovation, where you have one main build that you vary a little bit from, and you try to execute it perfectly. Like FanTaSy is definitely a guy who can adjust, but who we've seen in the past try to get a little bit too fancy at times, and sometimes it's really come back to bite him and make him do bad in some of these games.
Yeah, FanTaSy a lot by the book, and then also, of course, you've always got to know that FanTaSy is going to stick around for a long time in these games, exhaust every single little option he has available to him before he actually taps out. herO knows that very, very well. Everyone knows that very, very well by now. But he is going to be sending out his probe and Mothership Core in opposite directions to try and fend his opponent as quickly as possible. And he already finds him with a good stutter step on that Marine to make sure that that probe isn't going to be able to get by, and almost died on the way out. So it was good control by FanTaSy.
Both players here opening very economically. I wonder if with what herO saw here, he maybe chooses to go for a Stargate. Usually Twilight is really his weapon of choice. I was talking a little bit about how recently it's looked a little bit more like, herO, he hasn't been doing that great versus Terran, and FanTaSy has definitely been doing a little bit better as a whole against Protoss as well. And I really feel like this might come into play here in this series. herO, though, opening here with just the Robo, very standard. He seems like from just seeing one Marine and one Burker, he's kind of read that there could probably be a very quick factory, so he wants to get ready for the defense.
Does he want intel here as well? Mothership Core going to try and head on in, because he didn't see anything at the front with the probe, so sends this in, spots the fact that there are already Widow Mines in production here, with the starport going down as well. So this goes to give him an inkling that he might need to prepare his defenses, but he's already slowed down the production there on that starport, which does slow down FanTaSy as a whole.
FanTaSy showed a lot of brilliance recently in some of his games, in particular in online matches. He played in the MC's tournament that MC was organizing, which was less than 2 weeks ago, and he actually won it. If herO hadn't lost his first match round to Reality, another Terran, they would have met in the next round, which would have been funny, because you want to kind of hide your stride before a tournament like BlizzCon here. So herO, he had a pretty rough match against Reality. He was mixing in a lot of different builds, some cheesier ones, and in the end he lost 1 and 3. So then FanTaSy went on to win the whole thing. So if you look at that directly, you're like, well, I guess FanTaSy is just doing better. But, in a head-to-head, and also with the fact that these players, they know that they can meet each other and will meet each other in these tournaments, you shouldn't look at it and think that whoever won back then or did better, he's going to be favored here.
How are we looking at RoboBay timings here and things like that for herO even, I should say? Because this looked pretty fast on herO's side of things.
Yeah, this definitely was really quick. The thing is, a player like herO, he doesn't do that a lot of the time as one build that he wants to go for and all in with. He opens like this and then he sees what he's up against. So now, herO, having spotted the tech lab on the starport, he even gets out before the Raven comes out. That's such a good play here, fully knowing that there could have been a Raven. I'm pretty sure he spotted it as well. And now he knows exactly what timing he can go for, or all alike. If he wants to start and play a little bit on the greedier side of things, he can maybe drop a bunch of forges, some tech, and it's going to be a Forge and a Twilight Council here from him.
From FanTaSy, though, with the tank coming out, was he scared of like some kind of blink play coming his way? Why was he going down this kind of tech path himself?
Yeah, I think FanTaSy knows that herO really likes his blink play. So going for a tank like this and even a Raven, it's definitely going to make it easier against some of those blink builds. Usually, I would say that if herO had went all in with a lot of gateways, maybe FanTaSy would have died, but it's very rare for herO to actually do this as of late. So FanTaSy, I think he knew that there might be some kind of blink play at first into Colossus and the third base. That's usually what herO goes for. So he wanted to open pretty safe, make sure he could get his third command center up. And it already looks like in this series, FanTaSy wants to play a little bit of a longer game. A 3-base Terran with a lot of bio, medivac, drops, and all that.
In essence, with how that lines up as well here, obviously he's just having his 2 engineering bays finish up and getting good to go. I mean, herO has already had one of his first forges whirring away, I believe. Did he add on the second one, or am I mistaken? Is he just on one at the moment, is herO? Did he just finish up his first forge?
Yeah, it's been just one forge that was made earlier with the Twilight Council. Yeah. And apparently, we've seen that in the past. He doesn't want to go into blink. He went straight away into charge, which is very uncommon. So herO, I think he might be a little bit afraid of a 2-base. He's misreading this. He hasn't spotted the third command center, so we think he's going to be some kind of a tank plus medivac and a lot of bio all in. So I mean, looking at it that way, you're going to charge, you're going to, regardless of if it's an all-in, I think it's very good to play the way he's doing it. He goes into Templar Archives, starts the third Nexus. If he's really in trouble, he can cancel the third Nexus, but regardless of that, I think he knows that the Viking production is going to be so delayed because the Terran first went into a Raven and then has to go into Medivacs. So I quite like it, actually. It really feels like right now hero's going to be able to, if he wants to go into Storm, complete that before FanTaSy even attacks, in which case you're just in a great position. But FanTaSy right now is he's peaking very high in terms of army supply, or he's going to be in a second. The thing is, against Colossus and without Vikings, he can't really fight on paper, you know?
He's done a good job of keeping his macro up, that's for sure, with his army. But again, against these three Colossi, as you say, there's not really a whole lot he can do for now. He's just going to sit back on his 3 base. One would argue here a second starport is probably on the cards pretty soon, because right now, even pressing the issue just a little bit, I think he realizes, aside from those 2 tanks, there's not too much here that he could do. So if he kind of wiggled around with those Colossi, he could have poked and put his opponent on a very defensive posture.
That was a great scan here by FanTaSy, spotting that third base. He knows that hero's not going all in, supposedly, but hero, this might be a fake Nexus. He's only on 45 probes. Hero might just be going for it here.
This is quite ambitious. I mean, to be honest, the Colossi could do quite a lot here. He's going to charge forwards with these Zealots. And if those 2 tanks don't do enough here, then this could just be over right now. There's 4 Colossi with this, and there's just no biofort. I think Hero realized there was just no resistance to this army.
I think he figured out there was not going to be any Vikings. He had an Observer in there as well, and FanTaSy, he made way too many SCVs there. He was almost at 70 against just 45 probes. I mean, that third Nexus, I think Hero always meant for FanTaSy to see it. If FanTaSy hadn't seen it, he might have thought that this is a 2 base and played a lot more defensively, but now he was trying to defend a third base that's very hard to take on this map. He lost so much already here.
He's just got nothing to answer this. I mean, there's not even Vikings in production. There's a medevac coming down. There actually was a lot of probes that did die off on the other side thanks to the fact that there was a Widow Mine drop, but it's not enough. You can't have those just Widow Mines alone contest this kind of army that's going to push through and kill off 35 workers already.
Hero lost a lot across the map, actually. Oh my god. If FanTaSy is able to hold back at home with a good fight, he might be okay, and there isn't that much left here for Hero, but it's really those 3 Colossi.
Yeah, he got himself 1 Colossus, but still, there's enough on the ground with these 2 Archons tanking what it needs to.
They're gonna base trade, I guess. Back at home, there isn't really all that much here for Hero. He's got a bunch of charge rods. He's trying to get an Archon.
Oh, he's gonna recall! Oh, okay. Well, that means it's 36 workers to 32.
I think it was a bit too early here to recall. He didn't do enough damage in FanTaSy's base. FanTaSy's still very much in this. Walker count 32 SCVs to 38 probes. And army, FanTaSy's going to be ahead, and now he's already out on the map.
I think it really comes down to the fact that he did split off a little bit of the army and kept the pressure up on the other side here for FanTaSy, because if he hadn't have done that, there was no way he was going to contest the Colossi unless he'd have got a really nice flank off or something like that.
It's weird, like it seems like FanTaSy, like, he's definitely come out ahead from this, but Hero, it looked for a second like he really wanted to attack. Now he's gonna finish up Blink. It's time to add a whole bunch of Stalkers here to start and defend properly against all these Stalkers. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna go off. Oh, is it? Bam. Well,
lovely. Well, that is a big drop.
Wow, this is so much better for FanTaSy here. He's gonna land and start attacking his opponent's base so much faster than Hero will be. It looks like we might have to go into a base
he recalled right onto it! Oh my god, that's quite ambitious. He's going to kill off quite a few of the units that are already here. Blinks goes forwards with some of those Stalkers and actually gets some Medevacals too. That's quite the saturation. But for now, that was an ambitious move. You don't normally recall right onto the spot where the opponent is actually laying siege to.
The thing is, again, he has Colossus and he has enough Stalkers here, Hero, to blink below those Medivacs and start sniping them. But right now, FanTaSy, by being so out on the map and always ready to do his attacks, it really feels like he's doing quite a bit better.
Another drop over towards the left, so at least he's still limiting his opponent's third
the
base.
Mothership Core actually spots these Medivacs. And there's a bunch of High Templars there ready to feed back.
He's going to have to walk all the way back, though, here. Doesn't have the Mothership Core with that. Some feedbacks did land on those Medivacs as they came in towards the natural. At the same time, though, this army is slightly separated off. Good kiting here by FanTaSy, though, keeping out of range of those Colossi for a little while. Will make sure that they stay alive for a bit longer here, trying to evade that AoE damage. Picking up, getting out of there. And actually, he's doing not too badly against the Zealots in towards the main. So, all in all here, FanTaSy is trading off against Hero pretty well.
He's definitely putting in some serious work. Both players got 1-1.
Stalkers
were walked in now, so these units can, or Medivacs can get chased and sniped. FanTaSy just gets out on there.
How many Colossi do we have still on the map? Because Okay, so there's 2.
Yeah,
They have been thinned down. Yeah.
Yeah, I think FanTaSy did a very good job of just trading here for the last few minutes. After he held the initial attack, which was equivalent to an all-in again, even though it did a lot of damage, I don't feel like it was enough. And now FanTaSy is mining on the third base. He's still being active out on the map. The worst case scenario here for FanTaSy is that he takes a really bad fight in the middle of the map, loses everything, and then just dies. But he's not supposed to do that. But right now he's fighting with just Marauders. He's trying to bait into those Widow Mines. But there is an Observer.
And he spots them, kills them off pretty easily. That's quite... And at the same time, you're coming into the natural as well once again. So FanTaSy just really trying to always be all over herO.
Yeah.
Big Warpin's actually coming in though. Focus firing those high Templars that were warping in first was a cool little move. Trying to get the expensive units as early as possible in that.
That base is going to be sniped though, here towards the north. herO really salvaging the situation. This is such a scrappy game here. The crisis management is everything, and both of these players are really putting their everything here into this, but FanTaSy, it still feels like he's ahead here. With all the trades that he's been able to get, Arcos' pylon is going to go down now, that's powering all of these gateways.
That really hurts. I mean, shutting down that kind of production, when he's already unlimited to production anyway, now how is he going to be able to really warp in too much? Another drop's coming in, all the reinforcements that keep warping in are just getting kind of separated off and killed off. They even walked through the Widow Mines up towards the top, so some of the Stalkers died. And where are the Colossi? They're trying to scramble back here to help all this out. But as this continues on, FanTaSy is still producing.
Yeah. They take such a long time here to go across the map. herO is practically mined out here in the main base. He's really running out of minerals and gas, but so is FanTaSy. But remember, FanTaSy, he could fly his main orbital command to another base if he wanted to, and that's completely mined out. And FanTaSy is being so active here on the map with so many medivacs and a lot of bioforces as well.
All right, well, calm down for just for a moment here, as herO at the moment knows that up to the top left, there is always going to be posing this threat. I think he sees it with an observer. Yeah. So it means he can't really leave, but he has to do something over the other side, because FanTaSy is still a mess.
Oh, that observer. That observer spots the entire army on the left-hand side. herO's going to try to catch a little bit here if he can, but there's double the army supply for FanTaSy. herO needs something good like this to happen.
That's a good blade forward. He gets quite a few of those medevacs actually, really catching that off guard. FanTaSy, the scramble, you could see the moment where he was trying to pick up, but at the same time, he just has so much army supply. He drops into the natural. There's only a Colossus there with just a few units, thankfully separated off here for herO, but could have got messier.
Yeah. FanTaSy has such a massive army lead here. If he wanted, he could just wait for herO to make the mistake of leaving his base and then drop and do a lot of damage. Back at home, he's got enough as well to hold a potential attack. Still hasn't made... I don't think he made a single Viking yet this game.
No.
And he's still fighting against Colossus and winning. He's,
Oh, the SCVs, where are they going? Are they coming? Oh, no, he's trying to transfer over to this third location. I thought he was maybe getting ready for...
Drop in the main again here from FanTaSy. There is nothing back at home for herO to defend. He's going all in.
Point defense drone's been thrown down as well here, so many of the shots from the Stalkers as they walk forwards. But at the same time, I mean, even if he trades off a good chunk here, he's still not getting towards those Colossi. The Widow Mines at the back here are looking to finish them off, though. If they're not careful, they're going to just walk slightly out of range. And he's actually been able to clean up okay with these two Archons towards the back as well.
herO is such a warrior. He's somehow fighting in this game with... he had as little as half the army supply of FanTaSy here for a second, but FanTaSy, not the best fight here for him to take right outside of his base. Still ahead in army supply though with 59 to 45.
How is he still alive? Well, he's not going to be alive for much longer if these Colossi go down. One already gets flanked here by the Marauders. Second one might fall as well because it's just not enough to buffer for it. And that would be herO done here. He needs the AoE damage to keep him going. And that is a lot lost. A lot.
Yeah, FanTaSy scans the natural of herO. He sees the I guess the remainder here of his army, which is really not much. 2 Archons, a bunch of Zealots. More Archons are not going to be walked in, but there's no more Colossus here. So this can just be kited endlessly here by the army of FanTaSy. There's also going to be Widow Mines coming into play.
And that Mothership Core is gone, so it's a lot of gas to replenish here at this point. I was actually the main command center that flew over towards that third location.
So good.
Now one more Colossus in these Archons is all that's going to really stand here between FanTaSy and just being able to crush on through. There's a lot of AoE damage. Look at him trying to babysit these Archons and get as much damage done as possible. Actually, they've done amazingly well against that army.
FanTaSy getting a little bit too hasty here, fighting too early and losing quite a bit.
How is herO still alive?
He's an absolute warrior. That's how he's alive. He's a beast.
He's got another Colossus coming out as well. This is pretty impressive.
Oh, the Observer steps out of the scan.
Oh, wow.
herO is so good. He saw that coming as well. He saw the units moving towards the observer. He's like, he's going to scan, get out of here. And then FanTaSy missed. Even the little details like these can change everything.
Yeah.
herO, he's got 3 observers down on the map. He's got a good vision.
It's certainly been a while since I got
FanTaSy
to...
scans the top right-hand side. He thought there might be
case.
a hidden expansion here, which is one of the few things he could lose to as well.
It's been a while since we get to cast this level of StarCraft, and it's happy to be back with players like herO here, just being able to be so resilient. I mean, partially put himself in this kind of predicament because he was going for a very, very aggressive play, and FanTaSy didn't have any of it, really.
It's a very interesting mindset that FanTaSy went into this series with, especially the first map here, because he hasn't made a single Viking the entire game. If herO really picks up, I mean, first you need to try to win this game. Clearly, but I'm talking from next game onwards. If herO really realizes that properly, he can just play very defensive and keep on massing Colossus. Then it's going to be so hard for FanTaSy to, I guess, do something good. In this case, he's just got so much more army supply.
Thing is,
it's 22 Marauders, Skylar's.
Thing is, though, I still think herO's just not out of it. Like, if he keeps tabs on this army and tries to kind of keep track of it when it's moving around, that's the thing that's clever about FanTaSy. And he sees it with an observer. Oh my god.
This guy was waiting for this drop to come here the whole time. herO might be trying to catch it, but he's not, really not got that many stalkers. So he's going to dispatch them to try and catch the medivacs and catch the main army with his own.
That army is separated up. He gets himself one man with a High Templar. Second one already goes down with the 3 Stalkers alone, but 2 have already made it in towards the main base. He's going to snipe out the natural Nexus. That's a great move here by FanTaSy. A lot of this army's kind of trapped. He needs to get them out with the medivacs as quickly as possible. Oof, and he will do. Meanwhile, in the main base as well, just doing a little bit of damage here to the infrastructure. herO is scrambling while another army, but he's already been separated up here for the defense as well. He's going to try to defend that location, and he will lose some here. I think for herO, eventually, when cleaning all of this up, he's going to have to do something. He's lost a lot of his economy from the natural.
Yeah, the thing is that as soon as he moves across the map, then he gets dropped and takes a lot of damage. This minefield is insane. There's so many Widow Mines here.
Oh my.
FanTaSy could have just moved into the third base and try and snipe it, but he goes for the army instead.
He almost lost the observer there as well. Kept it alive by the skin of its teeth on the very edge of that scan. And at the same time, he will clean up a lot of this, but he's going to go for the Nexus here. If he can bring that down, that is going to be all of herO's economy gone, and he does fall. A great pickup there for FanTaSy, and he gets out with the boost of the medivacs.
Time to pull the probes here, maybe, and for herO to try and go for the kill. If he just sits at home, it's going to take forever for him to remake that Nexus. He's going to be long-distance mining between the third base and his main, so he moves across the map. And I know I've said it many times, but this time he's actually all in for good.
Yeah, he's got to do something now. FanTaSy knows it as well. He drops into the main base with just a few medivacs as well. He evacuates out the third base. He knows all he has to do at this point is survive. The probes are just going to be probably heading over there for the offensive as well.
I mean, FanTaSy can even fly away with his buildings and try to eliminate herO across the map. At worst, he gets a draw. This should be a win for him unless he really messes up the big fight, which I don't expect.
Yeah, it should be. Technically, there's 400 minerals in the bank here for herO. If he really somehow kind of scrambles out this position, the probes are, as you can see, going in an odd direction. But he will repair this one as well and keep it going. He needs his army together.
Yeah, herO's patiently waiting for his Colossus to rejoin this part of his army. Look at all of these SCVs here, very nicely.
They're all separated off here for a moment. One Widow Mine is going to connect there for a second, but still.
Make a Nexus.
This army is still quite scary for herO. That's the problem for FanTaSy. And there's no production going on either side because there's no income going on for FanTaSy at the moment either.
Yeah, he needs to fly his main orbital. Actually, that's the orbital for the natural that flew into the main.
Yeah.
He's playing musical chairs with his command centers.
It's going all over the place. And he has probes with
I think right now FanTaSy, like, he's really worried about the Archons and Colossi, so he might want to try and play the base trade.
The issue
Which would be crazy. What a crazy game to start this tournament. Oh my god.
The issue is, though, he has probes with the army, and he's probably expecting some minerals to be in the bank so he can make some buildings as well. So, yeah, we are in a very odd base trade scenario already in game number 1.
All these SCVs are trapped down on the map. If FanTaSy was to lose these, then he can't really remake anything. And on the map, the probes are going to be sniped. Oh my god, you can't be losing this 0. You still got 10, but...
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, SCVs are going to get sniped, then FanTaSy is going to be supply blocked, then he can't remake anything. This might just end up being a draw unless somebody can outdo the other here in this game.
In theory, it can keep going for quite a bit. Let's see how this is going to play out. Already seeing FanTaSy to the left-hand side, killing off the majority of the buildings. Still, though, probes with this army. 400 minerals banked up. He knows where all these buildings are flying towards, so he's going to try and intercept them here. But he doesn't have that much anti-air.
There is so few Marines. There is 8 Marines. This is really when you wish you had like a few Phoenixes laying around.
Yeah. All right,
and then it's even going to be started on top of these buildings here, or close to them.
All right, well, the thing is now is that FanTaSy knows exactly where this one important structure is. He's seen it already with all of his buildings flying away.
Do you know what's great for herO here is that he's got 2 observers, and since there is no scan capability here for now, up until I guess one of these orbital lands, it's going to be a lot of vision here for him that he's gaining from that.
Yeah.
And there is a few sentries. How many are there? There is 2 sentries, so there's going to be a lot of hallucinations to work with in terms of vision here for herO.
What do you think about the location he's expanded to? Because that's quite a location that could technically be shot at from like the back or something.
I mean, he's got Colossus.
There's a lot of areas where you're going to have to defend from here, though.
Yeah.
It's quite open.
Is he gearing up for an attack here? He's got units on the left. He's got units in the west and the east, Skylar's. He could even drop on top with some of them as well if he was to go for some kind of Maru attack. I think ideally he's waiting for herO to move out to then try and get an engagement.
I don't think he will
setting up on the right-hand side as well.
I don't think he will move. Like with 10 probes, he sees a lot of the army towards the left there with the Stalker. This is tense now.
Yeah, 3 SCVs.
Where's he going?
3 SCVs are on the map and mining.
He doesn't realize about the army towards the back. If he's pulling him out of the position here, this is just going to run in and kill off everything. Oh my god. FanTaSy is going to he's pulled him so far away.
Even the Mothership Core is not in position.
He's going for the Nexus. He's just going straight for the Nexus. He's not pulling back for this. He needs to get... Does he have another building? Does he have anything? Is there no pylon?
He started the pylon.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I was close. He's on the map. On the map, he's going to be caught.
Oh, he can just kill that off instantly. He has nothing else. All the probes are going to be going down as well. He cancels that one. Another assimilator goes down. Oh, herO, you got completely taken for a ride, my friend. FanTaSy.
He can snipe that from down the ramp, by the way. Oh, herO sets up to try and scout it. He's going to spot these medivacs.
He got the command center, but there's still 5 SCVs that can make another command center.
It's going to take like 15 minutes then.
Yeah, but I mean, FanTaSy is in the driving seat completely now. Yeah. That's for sure.
God, that's... What an insane game here to open up the day with.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
If FanTaSy doesn't succeed in winning here with just this army, this would be a draw. You'd think that he could just team and snipe this this assimilator, but he doesn't want to take the risk here for now.
Did he start producing something? Because he's just gone down from like several hundred minerals or so.
He started the command center on the top left. Where he sent his SCVs as well.
All right, yep.
And he also is flying back his barracks to his add-on. That's cute in the main.
Oh, nice. I guess why not? Because now you know your opponent, your Protoss opponent, is pinned with these 2 assimilators. There's no way he's going to be leaving those anytime soon.
Usually the dream here is that you get a Banshee that finishes the game for you. Even though there's 2 observers, this could be sniped. herO moves out. The chunk of the army at the bottom for FanTaSy is going to go for the assimilator.
Perfect little move here. Just double time up to try and slow all of that down. The divide and conquer method. But at the same time, he's actually losing a lot of those marauders down towards the south. He can't conquer that Colossi.
If FanTaSy loses everything here, I mean, this could be a draw again. He's playing for the win here. He's lost so much.
He's got medevacs, though. He should never really lose everything. He should always be able to pick up the scraps and then always get away and
he's
be able to heal up.
It's 32 army to 38, but that's counting 3 Colossi and 1 Archon.
Yeah.
Oh, feedback.
Going for the High Templar. Will be able to kill off 1, and then he could just easily target down the assimilators from this point onwards. The Colossi are coming in to try and help on out. One of the assimilators is going to go down. Actually, no, that second one. No way. He's only got 5 Marauders and 2 Marines left.
Mothership Core. He's going to do the job.
Oh my god. Is that just...
Big Papa is here. Or Big Mama, rather.
Is this actually a thing?
Evacuation.
The thing is now, the Mothership Core can just chase this. There's 2 Marines that need to come along and help.
Yeah, but FanTaSy is going to come back with the medivacs, and he's got 2 Marines.
Yeah, it's the
2
2
Marines for the job. That's enough. Imagine if those Marines died.
Yeah. Can't the Mothership Core do pretty well?
Well, against Marines 1-1 and medivac, no.
No, yeah, you got a good point. Oh well. So, surely, how much do we have left? 3 Colossi, 2 Sentries?
I think herO realized that maybe it was going to be really hard to win, but he could at least play for a draw. If he caught all of the command centers, kill all of the SCVs. And right now, we don't have too many SCVs on the map. It's just the 5. They're loaded up in this command center. They cannot mine.
If you were in the situation as the Protoss, Todd, how do you separate up your army here? Because you need to help the mothership
Well, I
core.
mean, I almost never win this game, so you shouldn't be asking me. But
well,
with how little he has, maybe
Chase.
herO can do half-half, just leave barely enough at the assimilator to try and hold there and go across the map with the rest to try and win. The mothership core gets sniped here. herO is going to put it all on the line once again and move across the map with 2 Colossi
and
one single sentry.
Uh-oh. So
actually, if he can hallucinate 1 or 2 units here.
So behind, we have a Colossi and a sentry protecting the assimilator, right? No, that
FanTaSy's going to fight. He's going to spread out his units perfectly so that the Colossi don't get any surface area.
That's one way to go about it. One Marine already falls. The Colossi, though, they're very, very vulnerable to these Marauders when they're separated up like this. One of them's already going to fall. All he has to do is micro. Technically, you could pick up these Marauders in the medevacs and keep them alive. And the second Colossi will fall as well.
Wow. And now herO's moving across the map with his last 2 units here in this game that can attack a Sentry and a Colossus. It's another one. It's round number 2. He needs to take out this army quickly and then take out the command center.
Guardian Shield, I don't think he has enough to be able to do it. Even a hallucinated Colossus, but it's not going to be enough. There you go. GG. Game number 1 goes to FanTaSy. What a way to open up opening week here. As FanTaSy will take game number 1.
herO almost got a draw out of this. Somehow, he was supposed to lose 15 minutes ago. He stayed in it, fought with everything he had.
I mean, there's so much to talk about from that game. First was kind of the mindset that we were seeing from herO, that the 45 probes, the being very aggressive stance there, to the FanTaSy just having no Vikings all the way through that game and somehow still surviving. This is one of the battles later on down the line that kind of we thought herO was going to be extremely victorious with, and then FanTaSy, most importantly, picked up a lot of his units and flew across to the other side.
That's the Windows 10 game DVR replay if I've ever seen one, Carlisle. But yeah, herO, he went for the big attack, didn't kill immediately FanTaSy and recalled too early. That was, I think, his biggest mistake. If I had to narrow it down to one single thing, is that he recalled too early. If he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have found himself in this position where FanTaSy was ahead in supply. That was, I think, both workers and army, mostly army though. And then herO got, I guess, stretched out. He had to defend in multiple places at once. Not having Blink for the longest time really didn't help as well. And in the end, FanTaSy pulled it off properly. I think also if herO left a lot of Zealots across the map to fight with and recall with the rest, he would have been the same, but he would have done better across the map and kept on killing stuff. But now we're going to head to Coda.
All right, Coda, our second map here. At the moment, FanTaSy is starting to make that upset happen. A lot of people look into herO as one of the guys to not only do well here in the round of 16, but also advance on very far in the tournament. But FanTaSy right now, after a crazy roller coaster ride of game number 1, has been able to take the first victory, the first win on the board.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the better maps here for herO to do good. Just in general, with what we've seen from him in the past on this map, you know, he likes to open fairly standard, open with Blink, and a lot of the time what we're going to be seeing from FanTaSy on a map like this is, I think, a Widow Mine drop, you know, with a quick command center early on in the game, which, if you're herO, there was one of his games not too long ago that he played on this map where the defense was pretty close to perfect, and then immediately behind this, herO is a smart player. He comes to conclusions very quickly. He knew that he could drop double Forge very quickly in the game, get a lot of these upgrades going, and then do well further down the line. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like this here happen, unless FanTaSy really wants to keep things crazy or play differently than just a regular Widow Mine drop that we see a lot in Terran vs Protoss.
Well, I'm extremely excited for the whole day now after what we've seen in our opening game. So let's get into game number 2 here between FanTaSy and herO. FanTaSy at the moment leads 1-0 over the #1 ranked player in 2015, the highest point earner of all time with 7,900 points. As we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Terran representing Dead Pixels. It is FanTaSy. Great start from him. Great start. A crazy back-and-forth game, but he made it work. And up to the top left-hand corner, we have our red Protoss representing CJ Intus. It is herO.
herO definitely a bit of a survivor in last game, staying alive for as long as he did. But he went up against the Survivor champion himself in FanTaSy, who's been on the verge of elimination from BlizzCon for weeks now.
That's actually the greatest point of all games. Of all people you have to go into a game like that, you end up being with FanTaSy, who isn't going to leave. Even if he had one SCV left, he's still not leaving.
FanTaSy brought the FanTaSy GG timing like literally to real life and tournaments. Like, he just refuses to lose.
No, exactly. Imagine if he just keeps going through the entire round of 16 in that fashion. It's like 3-2s, 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 all base trades. Everyone just can't deal with the pressure. It's that much. I'm not sure I want to cast FanTaSy anymore. He just makes my heart go crazy. But for now, it looks like he's going to be opening up with Command Center first. So already a very, very bold statement here from FanTaSy. He is in, well, what he believes a very, very comforting place right now.
The thing is about FanTaSy is that he's pretty good against Cheese. You know, in his last 10 matches versus Protoss, he went 8-2. The only two Protosses he lost to were Deer and Patience. He beat Wellmu and Elfie, so he pretty much passed the Cheese test with flying colors. He beat Lilbo twice, he beat San and Mana, so he's been doing pretty good against Protoss as a whole. But we've seen him sometimes overextend, making some weird decisions. Like one of those games that he lost against Wellmu back in DreamHack Stockholm, it was a game where he went for a Widowmine drop that didn't do too much damage, and then instead of playing standard, he dropped down a third command center before adding any kind of additional barracks. I mean, against Wellmu, you don't do this. He's just going to attack you and kill you, which is exactly what happened. So now, against herO, he needs to make sure that he's on top of his reads, because herO can definitely mix in a few attacks himself here, if he senses weakness or that his opponent's trying something.
What do you think on herO's side of things? I mean, that kind of 45 probe, 2 base, pseudo sacrifice of a third base. Like, was that really what herO is kind of punchy with in his strategies? Is that something that he should be relying on here?
I think it was really cool for him to adjust the way he did, and I really think that he should have gone a lot better. Because on paper, like if you look at the first attack, let's be honest, FanTaSy was getting crushed. herO was supposed to stay in the base of his opponent for longer and kill him. This is the classic mistake where you panic, you recall too early, and then the Terran just keeps on dropping, he's out on the map, and there's not much you can do, because if you move across the map, you get dropped very quickly and you take damage.
It's what the Terran wants, right? They want you to go back as quickly as possible. Because they're so mobile, so mobile here as the Terran. And as you can see here from FanTaSy's side of things, no gases, it's just been 3 barracks opener after a second command center. Now this can help out really, really well against anything that's particularly aggressive from a Protoss. We've seen this help out after a command center first from things like blink attacks, because then you have so many Marines and stuff like that, that it helps out a lot against that, just in case it were to hit.
And we've seen this build before from FanTaSy where, actually, you know, I talked about how everybody was kind of expecting a Widowmine drop, but now herO having scouted 2 barracks, I think he's already got it figured out here. That Stalker not going to be able to do that much, but definitely a good trade here, getting a Marine and then getting out. And then herO is trying to confirm here exactly what he's up against, trying to be a little bit annoying as well. FanTaSy going for the command center first and 3 barracks. I think this is really cool here, what we're seeing from him. He's mixing it up. He's getting a perfect scout here with seeing the Twilight Council. And behind this, when we've seen this kind of build from him before, usually FanTaSy is a guy who delays Medivac a little bit more than other players, that likes to go into an eBay pretty quickly to get some upgrades going. And he's done well with this kind of build in the past.
How that SCV got in so easily, so nonchalantly, I do not know, but regardless, he got in. And at the same time, herO here has thrown down his robo facility to kind of compensate. So at least that information has been hidden away from FanTaSy here. But I think FanTaSy overall is also a player that will say, oh, okay, I got to see your Twilight Council as easily as I did. Maybe you won't go down that path that aggressively.
And there's that eBay here. So FanTaSy is really going to be delaying his Medivac tech, but something that he did in one of his latest series against Protoss, which was against Wellmu, when he opened this way, is that he knew that there was going to be a lot of Colossus, most likely, especially if he scouts it. Oh, wait.
He got himself a Stalker for a Marine or 2, so that's not too bad at all.
herO not reacting as fast as I thought, but yeah. FanTaSy in the past has gone for a double starport very quickly to get a lot of Vikings. It would be funny if from one game to another he goes for 0 Vikings first one, and the second one he just masses them and kills herO, who goes for too many Colossus. But in this case, the Dark Shrine was just cannon thing.
Yes, it is. It's seen at the back.
Wow.
Everything.
Does he cancel herO? Usually you keep it, but then you don't use it up until a later point.
Everything that, I mean, herO's game plan from game 1 to game 2 as well, there's been these little kind of tricky moves. He's cancelled the Dark Shrine as well behind all of this. So he's gone over to Robo Bay. He's going for a more usual look here. But also the Warp Prism is still in production here.
You know, it's funny because herO didn't cancel it. Maybe he was hoping that FanTaSy would go for a second scan, in which case, like, he would have seen it still being up, and then you cancel if you had enough time. But usually you can just, I mean, you've already spent, you know, the gas and minerals, you can just let it finish and not use it up until a later stage in the game. And in this case, herO knows that he's got a refund on some gas, that he's not going to be warping in Dark Templar, so he goes for double Forge here for some good upgrades.
Yeah, I like that idea. You know your opponent, once they've seen the Dark Shrine, is likely to invest into those 2 missile turrets, or at least 2. One towards natural, one towards the main base. Double Forge from this point on, it kind of, you know your opponent's spending into that, I can spend into this, kind of equalize up the odds, maybe get into a good position with those upgrades. Whilst you imagine the Terran here at the moment is only on 1 engineering bay, kind of cranking that away. So
yeah.
Protoss can try and kind of skip some corners, as it were.
It'd be crazy if the scenario I talked about earlier came into play here, with FanTaSy potentially going for a second stopwatch here.
Yeah,
he's just got his first one finished.
Double upgrades as well coming out here for herO now. And usually double upgrade play kind of leans more towards a 3rd base from this point. But at the same time, we have seen those kind of just line up for a 2-base push again. It's very ambitious, though. He's already seen the 3rd base coming down here. It would give him a bit more room to go for his, but you don't want to spread yourself out too thin as a Protoss, even at this point, because you know your opponent has been churning out from 3 barracks the whole game long. So there could be drop potential pretty soon.
Yeah, FanTaSy is just going to add on additional barracks here for now, making sure he's safe with that 3rd command center, which was started decently early, you know, as much as herO slowed it down a bit. That was cool. FanTaSy already, you know, opening up the floodgates here on the right-hand side, so to speak. You know, he's getting ready for, I think, multi-pronged attacks, with which he's really, really good. And first Viking, that's already one more than he made in the previous game. First Viking is going to start production here.
I really like FanTaSy in this game. He has been so on point about all information he's been accruing, and he's going to get the cancellation on towards the 3rd base. Really good pickup here. Even a few Stalkers for good measure. Needs to get out. All right, sorry, Marines.
And herO might just attack here. He might just do the same thing as last game. He's on 45 probes. He's going up to 8 gateways. I think he knew that there was the potential here for FanTaSy to do a similar thing, you know, to be out on the map, try to be aggressive. He's moving out. He's going to be 8 gates. He's already got the War Prism, so he doesn't even need proxy pylons on the map. This is going to be such a dangerous timing. And herO, with the mistake he made last game, I'm pretty sure that this time he wants to commit.
It has been spotted as well, though. He saw that the War Prism was in that position. He even got himself a medevac retreating on the way out there here. herO moving out with this. There's quite a lot of Stalkers at the front. No Zealots with no charge to speak of, but 2 Colossi against only 1 Viking this time. And now FanTaSy is doing exactly what he did last time, but he looks to just be moving out towards his opponent's base with the drop again.
This time he starts playing across the map as herO is about to attack him and snipe that orbital command and then move into his natural. So FanTaSy, this is really late. And I think right now herO's probably realizing that, you know, there's the potential for a counter-attack. He left the Mothership Core back at home, so there's not going to be a recall.
Colossus!
Rather photon overcharge here used.
Oh, okay, it's only 1 Viking now. Yeah, well,
only 1 Viking, but still.
He'll do what he needs to for a while.
Mothership Core.
Oh, it's going to get brought down eventually here by the Marines.
Choose photon overcharge on the natural. FanTaSy can just move there.
Yeah, so this is not exactly working out too brilliantly.
Yeah, across the map though. How is FanTaSy ever going to stop this force here?
He needs more Vikings or something, but he's still just committing to medevacs and Marine Marauders alone here. So all the probes are going to get bottled up. He's going to kill off everything in the natural. We are in a base trade scenario again.
Can he evacuate? If herO gets across the map, he's got enough minerals to start a Nexus. Here we go again.
And at the same time, look at this. herO is not making the same mistake. He's sitting around. He's going to kill off every orbital command he can find. They are now all gone. And he's just going to lay waste to the infrastructure.
All these SCVs are trapped in there as well.
Is he trying to evacuate probes out with a War Prism? Did he lose everything? I think he's trying.
He's going to be able to as well. You can pick up 8 of them.
Run away, fellas. That's perfect. He's got 900 minerals in the bank. So
this could be the winning move, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because right now, herO's getting eliminated. If that War Prism gets caught, it seems like FanTaSy seems to know about it.
Was that all the SCVs as well? There's 6 left on the field here. Okay, so that's not every single one.
4 of them are on the map, but there's not enough minerals here for FanTaSy to start a command center.
Oh my.
This time it looks much worse here for FanTaSy.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, the army supply is not in his favor. It was all the games before.
And herO is so rich as well. He can already make a bunch of pylons in advance for when his Nexus finishes. He's got 8 probes out on the map that are going to be able to start mining as this Nexus finishes. FanTaSy even sees the Nexus, starting next to his last building start dying.
Sends this hallucinated Phoenix out to try and spot everything that's going on. And there's no observers, actually. So those 2 Widow Mines could be a bit annoying.
It's FanTaSy. I don't know how he's supposed to win this game here. He has 3 Marines here. If herO gets 4 Phoenixes out, it's over.
Yeah, this is not the best of positions here for FanTaSy as much as he... The thing is that currently he is playing in such a style that is always encouraging these base trade scenarios because he can never take head-on the Colossus-based army that we keep seeing from herO from game 1 to game 2 as well. But this time it's definitely not working out in his favor.
This is really cool here. This time we're seeing herO going for a similar timing with Blink instead of charge, but executing it a lot better here this time around. And FanTaSy really didn't see that coming once again. In the first game, that's already happened, And this is not like a hard cheese, like some kind of proxy target. It's just a mid-game timing that's really hard to see because you see a third Nexus, you're like, well, he's going to play macro, but no, he stopped probes on 45, drops down 8 gateways.
I mean, if you're a pro gamer in this situation, you scouted out everything all game long, you denied the third, surely you're feeling in a really, at that point, you were feeling a really comfortable position as FanTaSy.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think FanTaSy should have been able to figure out that something was up. You don't ever get a cancel on the third Nexus that easily against somebody like herO. He's a champ, he's a great player.
Yeah, that makes sense, because all in all, just gearing up for this kind of attack. Well, it's worked wonders here for herO and FanTaSy. Well, now we get to see his GG timings, because that's how this is going to be for a little while.
I really like this out of herO. He doesn't have any observer left still alive. I think he realized there could be some Widow Mines here by FanTaSy, and there's 2. So he's really worried that this could burrow in his middle line. So he goes for a Forge, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be dropping a cannon ASAP, an in-control cannon, if you will, to make sure he's safe.
Yeah, it's perfect here, considering that he has no observers. And there goes that cannon. Now dropping in a few units on every single angle here against this base location. He's going to have to try and poke and prod and overwhelm somehow, but he just doesn't have the units to overwhelm. Even just that blink forwards with these Stalkers, and he's just catching any small scrap. Oh, there's no way that these Bioforces are going to be able to filter down there and do the damage that they need to. The Colossi alone are doing quite a lot, and everything gets trapped. There you go, GG. herO will tie up the series here, 1-1. After a very, very similar situation coming out from our previous game, but in the end, herO way up on top of this one.
I know what herO's coach Notebook said after map number 1 that he showed him. Leave your mothership core back at home because photon overcharge is pretty good.
Even just 1 photon overcharge. Didn't even get it on the natural.
Time. These probes were safe in the main. The Warp Prism came back, picked up 8 probes. In the end, he was able to evacuate.
And this was the snipe out here from our Windows 10 game DVR replay.
You don't get that kind of snipe unless you're playing against, I don't know, like me or something. Like, if it happens against herO, you should really have your spider sense start tickling.
Why was it so easy?
Yeah, exactly. I really thought that herO was going to be able to evacuate here with a few of his probes.
Tried to get out, and at least this Warp Prism.
These were the ones.
This Warp Prism was a true MVP, really. He didn't have to have any pylons towards the front. He got the probes out that he needed.
It delayed the third base at first with the 1-0 that evacuated after.
Really, really good stuff there by herO. And all in all, still these compositions that we're seeing from herO.
What is going on? Is that parting?
That is parting, yes. The thing is, I suppose, a lot of these teams like Yo Flash Wolves and Dead Pixels who haven't quite had the house practice of the Korean team, I imagine they've banded together a little bit in aid of one another. So it makes sense. So Parting giving some advice here to FanTaSy.
FanTaSy like... He only attacks with 45 probes. Stop making SCVs and camp.
Do I really have to make Vikings? I don't like
6
them.
bunkers.
6 bunkers. All right, well, that is 1-1 currently here in this best of 5. Our next map's going to be Bridgehead, and then we will have Cactus Valley. And if we need it, Dash and Terminal to wrap things up. I love Dash and Terminal, Todd. It is my favorite map of this entire map pool.
Okay, why?
Because I'm a bad person. It makes for some crazy games. But here is Bridgehead, also one of my favorite maps of this map pool because it's so diverse. It's such a crazy, crazy back and forth map.
Very even in Terran vs Protoss, actually 23-22. That's really, really close. But this is a map where if herO was to play a similar style, again, this is very hard for FanTaSy to properly read into it, but now he's aware that herO definitely has this mindset of like, he doesn't want to go into a long macro game without trying to do any damage before, which usually, I mean, if you're Protoss, that's to some extent standard. Like, you can't really sit back at home, play defensively, and expect to win, because only Rain can do this.
Yeah.
And herO's not Rain, even though he's pretty good himself.
No, here is herO, here our Casper champion, our SSL champion. And at the moment, he has his work cut out for him, that's for sure. FanTaSy has turned up, but in a different way that I was expecting. I wasn't quite expecting him to be so frugal about going for these base trades and being happy to do it. But we're now getting into game number 3 here, guys, between FanTaSy and herO. And remember, it is do or die here in the round of 16. There is no lower bracket. It is all on this best of 5. As we have spawning to the left-hand side, our blue Terran representing Dead Pixels. It is FanTaSy.
FanTaSy really bringing some good things here to this matchup already. He actually left before his last building was burning down last game as well, so he's feeling good.
That was really weird, that. And to the right-hand side, we have our red Protoss representing CJ Entus. It is herO.
Well, the music is perfect.
I know.
For this intro. herO, he needs to stay focused here. His plan was to go for a similar build than what we saw every single game. Right now is the time to start thinking about what FanTaSy is going to be doing better, because we can surely expect FanTaSy to start adjusting his play here a lot more than what we saw in the first 2 games. You know, it's very hard to first get a feel, but now we're reaching this point here in the best of 5 where both players kind of know what to expect from each other. So unless somebody was to bring something crazy to the table and really mix it up, I think we should be looking at them trying to adjust as much as possible from there.
And already a probe being sent out here from herO, so he really wants to know what is going on early from FanTaSy, who, by the looks of things, command center first again in his pocket. Natural here on a map like Bridgehead.
One of the best things about herO's Protoss versus Tian is I think he likes to mix in a lot of double gas openers, which we haven't seen yet from him in this series. I would really like to see him bring back some of these, because it really keeps the Terran wondering, and FanTaSy, he loves his command center first.
Yeah, almost always going for it at the moment. This probe's going to confirm after scooting a boot, not really seeing anything towards the natural. And no guys in gas just yet here for herO on the other side.
I think he realized very quickly it was going to be a command center first, so he's just going to go for a quicker nexus himself here.
I like that adaptation. I think that works out brilliantly here for him, considering he knows his opponent is opening this economically. So that's all nice. FanTaSy, meanwhile, sending out his SCV, and it's funny because he'll confirm that his opponent's trying to keep on his toes.
I wonder if herO, like, at this point, he's getting a little bit fed up with FanTaSy going so much for command center first and throwing in a crazy cheese in next map.
Oh, you think something like that could happen?
Especially if he's up to 1, because then he has a lot more room to try and take a risk like this.
I like that. That'd be cool. And then if you do win on that, and it's nice quick win before something like Dash and Terminal, where everything can go on crazy. I mean, Dash and Terminal, from my point of view, from a Terran perspective, is like base trade heaven, because Protoss are going to have such a hard time moving from natural to main to main without proper recalls, and then that's a lot of energy wasted.
But what's really cool about the way herO has played now, and if he was to do something similar again, where you start with third nexus, but you still stay on very few probes and then go for an attack, is that there's the back rocks that you can use very well. It's going to be very hard for Tian to fortify both locations. That probe going to be able to get out, as will the SCV here.
All right, double gas going to go down after 2 barracks here, so a slight adaptation from FanTaSy, realizing that it's a bit more difficult to make some blink work at the front of this map, for example, not as likely at all. So could easily get away with just a few less units to start things off.
herO with the pretty quick robo here. It's crazy actually how good herO is with his observers. I think the most impressive of all Protosses by far, because he doesn't just make a bunch of them and leave them in positions. He's actively scouting with them. You can tell he has them binded, and he uses them so well. He got so much information in both of the previous games, even though he lost the first one. So I've been very impressed by him.
Our poll here, FanTaSy gathering a little bit of traction. He was previously around the 24%, but now he's up to 33%. So some FanTaSy believers stepping into the fray at the moment.
Well, I mean, you know, StarCraft is a game with 3 races, and nobody ever votes for anybody but their own race. So there's a bunch of Terrans watching as well.
Yeah. I think to be fair, herO such a charismatic guy.
Yeah,
Even
true.
some Terrans would vote for herO, but for now, this SCV planting himself just on the very edge, trying to poke in. He already got in the previous game, but herO's having none of it this time.
Yeah.
Should be able to deny that pretty quickly.
Made sure there was a sentry being produced. Actually interesting. Robo Bay was placed in a very nice location, by the way, which is going to be hardly scoutable around the natural.
And Warp Prism coming out once again here from herO. So this is
Look at his
cool.
position. How are you supposed to see this here if you're FanTaSy? Unless he drops, like I feel like there's almost no way he's going to scan there.
No, very, very difficult.
And only one of the gases here taken at the natural for herO. So maybe a much more aggressive build here in this game with the sentry that he made. You know, he's going to build up on energy, have the Guardian Shield down the line.
I think actually after trying to get in there with the SCV, that might be one of the only places he does scan, if he is going to scan. But
yeah,
for now, let's see how he is going to play this out. He's got his factory on the way. And then he does scan, he does see the very lip of it there, the Robo Bay. So he knows it's done.
I wonder if herO is starting to feel a little bit unlucky here with this, because the Dark Shrine last game was at the very corner as well of the scan, and now this time it's the Robo Bay, which if you see your opponent scan and miss it, you feel so happy about it. And now double Forge here is going to be dropped down from herO for some upgrades, which again doesn't necessarily mean he wants to upgrade heavily and play passive. In the previous game, it was a lot about that 1-1 fight into a base trade.
Yeah, I had to cover all my bases when it came to, oh, look, a double upgrade. But at the same time, we have seen it be so aggressive in the past, and he continued to kind of follow through with that trend in that second game. Now the Warp Prism's been loaded up. What does it have in it?
Colossus.
Question. Oh.
But didn't go for Warp Prism speeds. Actually, still going for extended thermal lens, which on this map, I guess I agree with. I think herO really picked up on the fact that there seems to be very often, and more often than not, a late starport and a very... I guess a neglection of Vikings, if that's even a word in English.
No, that is, yeah.
Yeah. FanTaSy really has been neglecting Vikings, so if you get this kind of drop going and you can do even just a little bit of damage, it's going to be so good here for herO.
But a missile turret still shoots a Colossus. Back up, calm down. We're back to good old 2014 BlizzCon with Classic doing his little shenanigans, and has to get right back on out of there, though. That's just a few too many units.
Yeah, that didn't do much, but now FanTaSy is like in the state of mind where he might have to make Vikings earlier than he wanted. He needs to leave a bunch of units back at home, and he's not going to be able to start moving out and be aggressive himself. And herO, again, going for so many gateways, going up to 8 here in total with the other ones that he's making into his natural.
Is this just looking very similar to what we saw last game? I mean,
but actually, 46th probe has been made.
I think he actually might have been on the 46th probe last game, to be fair. But yeah, it's not a big deal.
I thought I saw 45, yeah. It doesn't really matter up until the point he goes above 50, I guess.
Yeah, he really, really likes doing this. And it's going to probably have some success. The second starport is coming in pretty early here, though, compared to the past 2 times.
This is one of the best adjustments that I think you can do here from this. And FanTaSy is already setting up with the bunker in his natural.
He knows.
That parting advice, man.
Yeah.
He was like, enough is enough. You're going to get bunkers and you're going to get Vikings, and you're going to wait for this guy to attack you.
And it will probably do pretty well here. How many Vikings does he have right now?
That is so early to have a second starport.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He's producing Vikings 4x4. He's only got 2 here right now, but FanTaSy, he's going to go up to 6 here in a second.
It's a lot of Stalkers he's going to have here, though. He needs to make sure that the Vikings are placed well when he actually goes into this engagement. The Stalkers are going to walk forwards, find out, and scout the location.
Who worries about Stalkers, man?
Yeah, not too many people, admittedly. Bunkers are already there as well.
Actually, everybody.
Being repaired, and oh dear me. Thing is that already that location being repaired, it's very difficult to ever breach that location. He might go all the way to the back rocks now.
I think herO might just expand as well. Like usually you see a Terran already set up like this, you know that you're not going to break him. Just go for a third base, get a bunch of probes, and he starts 2-2. I like this choice here.
Yeah. Already bunkered down at the back. He's going to try it anyway, just posture for it, but the third Nexus is going down as well, behind the 2-2. So he's like, yeah, okay, maybe I could do something here, but if not, at least I have my contingency plan already good to go back at home.
If herO just pulls back home here, this is a big win for him, because I think he can already start to realize that FanTaSy skipped that third command center, and he's going into a lot of Vikings, but this could backfire. If FanTaSy hits the timing with 12 plus Vikings, these Colossi are going to die so quick, and then the rest of the Gateway army on the ground, he's not going to do that well. So I think FanTaSy might just pull SCVs here upon realizing. He already saw the third base. He has a Marine in position. Billy the Marine is back, man.
He sent the 2 medevacs up towards it as well.
Yeah, he didn't reveal yet that he had seen it.
Okay, well, he now knows that this is going to get hit pretty hard. There's a few zealots there, but not that much. Also, the army is actually coming back to help this out. He could make sure that this is saved here.
Wow, there's so many stalkers with Blink.
He's going to try and focus it down. Is he going to be able to pick it up? He does force the cancellation, but the 2 medevacs are going to go down. This entire army is going to be sacrificed for that. But the cancellation of a Nexus is exactly what FanTaSy needed.
And herO goes into a Dark Shrine here. Feels comfortable enough to just go for this. I think you don't really expect your main to be dropped. Usually it's going to be the third base and natural, a lot more so. herO must be feeling comfortable here. I mean, he's going to get charged in a second. 2-2 is going to finish. He can anticipate that Terran's going to be very far behind in upgrades. And we don't even see an eBay, a second eBay or an armory yet from the Terran.
It's quite the commitment, quite the commitment. Now Hallucinated Phoenix is going to try and dart around, see if he can get any information. Not too much at all. That bunker's still full, so it went down quickly. And FanTaSy's going to start his kind of just poking and prodding on either side here and seeing if he can really slow down herO.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, is that across these locations, I think herO has an amazing army.
And herO already having a War Prism out on the map.
4 Dark Templars just got
there was his army, so I guess maybe they're 4 Archons. But already having a War Prism across the map, he's not even going to need to proxy a pylon there. There is no turret in the main. If a DT walks there and starts killing SCVs, this is going to be every Terran's nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be out on the map, not ready to defend, and not even with detection there.
Look at that big movement out here from FanTaSy as well, through the middle of the map. Even a missile turret being set up there. This is...
Oh, the Vikings send a medivac drop in the natural. It's going to be spotted by the one stalker there.
And how far out of position? The thing is that the Vikings are in a great spot here to try and zone out the Colossi once they actually come in. Because the Stalkers are kind of bottled up here. It's not exactly the easiest position for them to help out.
Oh, Dark Templars are putting in some serious work.
Oh, he got the Nexus though. He sniped that out for the cost of this army. The problem is now, with that going down, oh my god, he's going to try and go in for the third base as well. Here is FanTaSy. This is really well set up. He drew out the entire position. And the Protoss has very hard time of being able to transition between these locations. He gets it. He needs to evacuate out now because the counter-attack could hit him really, really hard.
A little bit of a Bolt-esque move here. herO hasn't restarted his Nexus on the natural. He's long distance mining from the third base and he's remade that. He might have to go for an attack here. A big supply lead here from herO. 116 army to 78.
Yeah, this is a huge army.
He killed a bunch of Vikings, but it's still 11 in total.
How many Colossi do we have at the moment? Two.
But with 2 Archons and 4 Immortals though, like as long as they can deal enough damage before they die, this might be working here.
That's a lot of Zealots as well he actually has here as a buffer for this army. Not to mention also they do have 2-2 upgrades against this. I still think the turns are like 1-1 or something, yeah. So it's not exactly the easiest to shred through that many Zealots. Yeah, I think he does against that kind of wave that's going to be able to hit him here pretty soon. Blinks forwards here with the Stalkers trying to focus down the Vikings. I don't think he even needs to be doing that at this point because there's just too many. They're going to get their job done. He needs to land the Vikings right now or something to be able to hold off against this. Those Zealots are pushing up against those Marauders. They're going to try and bottle it up, but this Protoss army here is going to try and just sit around. Yeah. The thing is he needs to keep kiting,
And herO doesn't attack move into this. He tries to set his army as best as he can while fighting. He leaves a few units into the natural at the same time to try and take out more and more SCVs.
Oh, he doesn't have much left over here, does FanTaSy. 78 army supply against 47, but he keeps bottling this up. He keeps bottling this up, but he needs to scan. There are so many DTs. And now he throws down the scan here, trying to clean up as many as he can, but the DT is going to try and run away from that location. 78 army supply against 35 here. FanTaSy, the problem is, everything is on top of his production facilities.
Yeah. FanTaSy took such a long time to realize there was Dark Templars and I mean, even now that it scans, there's Zealots tanking for them. He just gets the one. Now Archons are going to be morphed.
It's still so much Protoss here at the same time. Now even killing off add-ons here on towards this production. Another barracks goes down. This is his last barracks. If that goes down, he has no more reinforcements. The blink forwards here with the Archons chasing down this army. There's just too much brute force here from herO with 128 supply against 36. And there you go, GG. herO takes the lead 2-1. in this best of 5. But these games are by no means clean. They are scrappy and they are back and forth.
His coach is going to come and congratulate him. That's my boy. That's how you kill a Terran.
You get him. Makes those kinds of noises. herO's like, all right.
A primal scream.
A primal? No, that's after. That's after the series. When he wins, he lunges out and primal screams. Can't wait for it. Every Korean's going to do that.
FanTaSy definitely made some nice adjustments, but it's making an adjustment is not everything. You know, herO, he can still adapt on the fly, and that's exactly what he did. If herO had attacked, he would have lost. But he identified that FanTaSy had skipped on that third command center, that he was going for a lot of Vikings. He was like, attacking doesn't make sense here. I'll just take a third base, make sure I defend from there. And in the end, the split looked a little bit scary here at this stage in the game. At first, when his Nexus was going to die very quickly, but in the, as soon as you can defend well enough and you're going to kill a bunch of your opponent's army, then you can almost always counterattack with something like a 30 to 40 army lead.
This is one of the scariest things about Bridgehead. It presents Protoss here once you're against a Terran in this setup with so many horrible decisions. Like, do I go through that filtered location where my Colossi are going to be taking free damage? I need to save my natural. My third base is so far away from it. Just the snipe on in. So very, very brutal steps all the way through from FanTaSy. Yeah, and now we're back to watch good old Colossi get like 3 SUVs.
I think it was just one too. Like, he didn't do much. He
was it really only one?
Yeah, it was one that checked after.
Sorry, buddy. You have to leave with your tail between your legs.
To be honest, keeping the War Prism alive across the map was huge, because like even in this fight, herO is able to reinforce with it. He doesn't need to proxy pylons, which, guess what? If your attack ends, they die later on, and then they supply block you. So.
He actually has herO to buffer for this army. Not to mention also they do have 2 to upgrade. Oh, okay. All right, well, as you can see, by the end of where we were getting to, there was just so much Protoss. After he traded away those 2 Nexi, Nexus even I should say, there's just too much Protoss to deal with. Yes, he kills off all the
These Immortals were never contested as well.
Yeah.
Like the front line was strong, the back line was strong, the army supply and army composition-wise, FanTaSy was just too far behind, not having any ghosts.
All right, well, before we get into game number 4, we're going to head over to the couch to see what they think about the series so far.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. What a fantastic series that we've had so far. It's been completely back and forth, boys. In the first couple of games, I didn't think we'd see that to start the global finals.
I mean, we went over this before, and you guys were teasing me about this a little bit. But last year, the round of 16, I thought it was really one of the best StarCraft days of the year. We had 8 best of 5s just like today. It's an insane amount of StarCraft. But I think 6 out of 8 best of 5s were insanely good. Now we start off today, and that first game is already like has potential to be one of the best games of the year. I thought it was ridiculous.
Was history made, do you think?
It was close.
I mean, I'm not in a position to make such claims.
Who could do that, do you think?
Tasteless.
Okay, yeah, we agree.
No, it was a really good game.
Right.
It is.
It's like something you look through.
Yeah. I got a talkative eye. Hey, if we keep going, it might even get higher. All right?
It's really
Take that,
but then
Google
I touch
Glass.
it. Apparently, it makes sound, so I'm told not to touch it either. So this is actually the professionalism of In Control has raised the bar and the microphone.
Optical communication.
Yeah. It's like I'll blink 3 times if I agree with Dario. Like,
Dario, what do you think about the series so far?
Well, the first game was probably one of the clowniest series we had in a long time. I mean, everybody was just going crazy of us. We weren't sure how it's going to go. We thought the game was over 10 times.
Yep.
So that's very cool. I like the approach by FanTaSy of trying to force base trades, because I feel that is what you need to do if you're not quite as strong as the other player. Like, make the game as awkward as possible so the other guy doesn't have as much experience either, and then basically you have more versatility, it's like less predictable, and suddenly people make more mistakes, and that's how a lesser player can beat a stronger player.
Hey, I suppose you agree with that statement from Dario.
I would love to disagree.
No,
but
I disagree. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
No, I can't really disagree with that one. I think FanTaSy's playing really well so far. I mean, he's down 1-2. But I think he's on the right track. And let's not forget, game number 2, if he pays attention to that War Prism that flies into the main base, that picks up those 8 probes, he actually wins the game. Like,
and something did happen because it had low health, actually. We didn't get to see it, but...
and then game number 3 as well, I also felt he had a pretty good read on the game. He stopped the first attack very well. Then he started base trading a little bit. I think he could have scanned a lot quicker against those DTs. And maybe he made a few too many Vikings against 2 Colossus. But I still feel that FanTaSy's putting up a really good fight, and if it just comes down to those minor things, he can maybe still turn this series around. There we go.
It's one thing to look at too, Dario. herO's kind of mindset is very strong coming into this. Obviously, losing the first game is never very easy to take, but you know he's buckled himself down and he's performing like I mean, maybe not expecting to. Maybe he'd like to play a little bit better. But he is turning the series around. He has turned it around.
Yeah, I like his approach that he's mostly starting off 2 base, trying to put the aggression on FanTaSy. Because if you just go 3 base expand, something weird can happen to you. But because he's making units himself, like he's saving himself, like making himself more secure by being aggressive.
Jeff?
I think see you guys. Next great.
I like improvisation. On a serious note, actually, I like the time to call a pause as well. It's the player's option, and he won the first game. Yeah, we're gonna roll with it, man. We're gonna roll with it. Lost the next two, and they were kind of close though. But this is a single elimination, like Kevin was talking about earlier. It's best of 5. Like, calm yourself, cool your jets. You actually won game 1, and with a couple of different changes in game 2 and 3, really could have brought those home as well.
It's obviously a very important time for a break to be called between the two of them. Now, just herO 1 game away from securing himself a spot at BlizzCon. Yeah. What do you? I mean, herO's back up there set up, but FanTaSy's still AFK, literally AFK. What do you think's going through his mind now? I mean, you talked a little bit about how he's been very close to be winning game after game after game. Do you think he's thinking the same, or is he perhaps getting a little bit nervous? FanTaSy.
I mean, FanTaSy is probably just like trying to think, where did it go wrong in game number 2 and 3? You know, why was I able to make game number 1 go my way? Where did it really go wrong? But I think he knows, you know, he's such a good player. Obviously has a great grasp on his matchup, so I'm sure that he's able to put the pieces together and realize that, you know, this is getting very close. And I actually, if I was FanTaSy right now, I wouldn't be devastated. You know, if you're down 0-2 after 2, 11-minute Protoss timings, and then you sit there, it's like, you know, what do I even do? What should I do? But I really feel that he has a pretty correct game plan and a good approach to the series. And just like Jeff said, it comes down to making a couple minor tweaks.
I can't remember the map exactly. Do you?
I know that Terraform is vetoed.
Dash and Terminal is still in the map, but that is the last
Probably
one,
the 5th one. So the 4th one might be Cactus Valley then?
Oh, I think you're right, actually. I think it is Cactus Valley.
It's a good counterattack map, actually.
Which,
yeah,
I mean,
it's a dream map.
It's a good map, right?
For sure. I mean, most Protoss players have a very unique approach to Cactus Valley because it can be very difficult. So they either open up with Phoenix. We can take a look. Yes. So they either open up with Phoenix, which is possible. I've seen herO do that in the past. Or they just go for a ridiculously quick 2-base all-in with Blink Stalkers or something relatively similar to game 1, 2, 3. See what we can do with Blink Stalkers and Colossus. And then, you know, transition out of it. But if this game would go on like game number 1 and game number 2 went, I think that would be very good for FanTaSy.
I would be so pumped if this went to game 5. I'd actually, given what we were all saying, we saw the votes, it was a complete wash of everyone says herO's going to win. If we can go 2-2 and go to that game 5, all of a sudden I think herO gets a little bit nervous because he did not see this going the distance. I cannot imagine.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to continue on with this series. Both of the players you can see behind us are now ready. Let's go ahead and jump in to the 4th map between these two.
All right, quite the roller coaster as it has stood so far here between these two. And likewise, you know, as much as they're saying on the desk, you know, herO may not be expecting it to have gone as far as it may do if it goes to 2-2. Likewise, you know, looking at how FanTaSy's come in, I expected it not to be going this far at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, FanTaSy winning the first map, I think everybody probably went like, whoa, like, is this for real? But yeah, FanTaSy, even though, again, we painted him as this huge underdog, and he might have been, he's a great player himself. He's a player with a long history. He's had success in the past. And you can tell he's practiced very hard for this. Like, this really showed in some of his games here. In particular, I think the first one, even in the last one, I like the adjustments he made at first. It's really, I guess, adapting to the way herO was reacting to what FanTaSy was doing, what that was lacking here for FanTaSy.
Yeah, if game 1 and 2 made you think he couldn't make Vikings, well, game number 3 can dissuade you the other way because he made a lot of Vikings there. Let's get into game 4, as it will be Cactus Valley here between FanTaSy and herO to figure out who is moving on to BlizzCon. As FanTaSy looks to keep his hopes alive. Up to the top left, it is that man himself representing Dead Pixels. It is FanTaSy. Going up against the #1 ranked player here in 2015. It's the monumental task, but he's certainly up to it at the moment. As we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner is that man himself representing CJ Entus. It is herO.
It takes no less than the #1 ranked player to take down somebody like FanTaSy.
Seems so at this point in time, because FanTaSy is certainly making a meal of it.
I very briefly touched in the previous map on how we might be seeing, I think it'd be herO if somebody were to, you know, try something a little bit special here, being up 2-1. So herO, in his recent series versus Reality, when he played on Cactus Valley, he went for a hidden Twilight Council on his natural and played a little bit of a different style than what you see from him usually. So there is a chance we see something like that. But look at this, no gateway went down. So it's going to be Nexus first against Gat first, which, unless you can somehow see that it's gas first, it can be really hard to deal with.
Yeah, this is really interesting because herO is playing kind of to the map, but mostly to FanTaSy. He's identified that the past couple of games, okay, command center first, I guess I'll just go Nexus first without care or thought, and now FanTaSy has flipped it on its head completely.
He's at least scouting though, so herO should be able to spot what he's up against. This is definitely a little bit of a special thing. I expected herO though to go into more of something, you know, cheesier than anything, not more economic here against FanTaSy. Again, you know, if he was to go 2-2 here and lost the momentum, could be a disastrous situation.
herO for now. He's going to be scouting out his opponent's second location, as we see Factory already on the way. This is such an aggressive opener here from FanTaSy.
Being able to see it very quickly here, this is everything here for herO. And since one Marine's going to be out before the probe gets there, is he properly able to see what's up?
The thing is that it's very close to the ramp, so depending on where the Marine is positioned, like if it is like slightly down the ramp,
he's going to be setting up here.
Oh, great. Okay, so in fact, he keeps on position. Last shot!
He almost got past.
Beautiful.
Oh my god, that could have changed everything here. But now herO, is he able from this to realize, from seeing this here, to realize what he's up against? It's really hard.
Well, the thing is that at least can't be a command center first, because that Marine wouldn't have been out at this particular time.
And usually, like since it was gas first, the barracks was a little bit late, so usually at the timing there could have been a second Marine already, with the point that he had reached towards the ramp. So, yeah. So herO at this point, the only possibility that he's eliminated is that he could have been a command center first, but it's not, so it can be anything else. So he needs to be careful. He's going to start a mothership core, needs to start a stalker as well, ASAP.
That's where we saw this Zealot coming out pretty quickly from herO. He's like, well, I mean, you could be doing a multitude of things here. Mothership calls out as well. That's going to start banking energy for the all-important phone overcharge.
With what we've seen herO do earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if he just went into a very quick robo here behind this and found himself fairly safe against what FanTaSy is going for.
I guess the thing is off that as well is if you are anticipating something aggressive, and it could be something like a Widowmine drop, get the robo, get your observer out, and then put you on course to where he would have already been in his usual kind of 2 basey games anyway. He's trying to wiggle through.
By the way, second gas and Armory here now is now going to go down. FanTaSy is the one getting completely here cheeky in this map number 4 on Cactus Valley.
So much aggression.
Oh my god.
Alright, well, how many Hellions does he even have to follow up with this? Normally wouldn't this just be Hellbats? Is he really going to get an armory out here for some, like... Okay, so you're getting the Tech Lab on that as well.
So does he want to play with some kind of 1-1-1? Like usually, like you see Armory, you first think Hellbats?
Yeah, normally I'm thinking Hellbats, but there's no Hellions. If he goes with Thor, man, I'm just going to blow my mind.
Some kind of crazy Thor drop.
That's a command center already going down here.
Oh, that Widowmine in the main? Just 2?
Just 2? Okay.
What a disappointment. For the Giants, of course.
And it's quick drilling claws. I can't.
We've seen Innovation do this not too long ago and do really well with it.
It's really irritating. The thing is, though, is that he had a robo so quickly, he's going to have observers out pretty fast as well. He needs stalkers in the right locations to actually deal with this.
Yeah, Innovation, I think it was maybe in his last encounter with Zest, he played a lot with a build like this. Got drilling claws, and the thing is that it's almost impossible to expect this build coming. So you don't, like, you see Widowmines. Yeah, you see Widowmines being dropped, and you don't anticipate they will burrow this fast. But now herO, he's across the map with Stalkers, and he's actually attacking into Marines. Not doing that bad here. He's going to be pulling back. Oh my god, Microwise. This was fantastic. He's killing all of the Marines.
Oh my god.
And the bunker is going to be cancelled. FanTaSy in quite a bit of trouble across the map. It's almost as if herO, he's already played against this and he knew exactly what was going to happen here.
One Widowmine sets itself up on the high ground, which is very, very important here. It's going to take a bit of scratching damage, but
I mean,
that's so many Stalkers.
This could end very early here.
Yeah. He doesn't really... Oh, okay, so that Siege Tank is going to help out considerably with this defense as well.
Drilling Claw finishes as there is only 2 Widowmines on the map. And now herO has got an observer in one of his mineral line with 3 Stalkers. He's got Photon Overcharge available, almost double one. He's got 180 energy in total. This is just a disaster here. This was countered perfectly by herO, who's only lost 4 probes here so far.
And it's not even the point of him being locked in its base. It's the issue of it's still 45 workers to 32 with that second base mining here for herO. So, and he's not really losing too much behind it, and he's not being slowed down. He's got his Robo Bay on the way, and he's got his Double Forge on the way. Yes, the Observer died at the back, but that's as long as he's not taking any damage to his mineral lines here, herO is flying away with this.
He completely realized how far ahead he was here, and dropping down the Double Forge and the Twilight with the Robo Bay as well is just the perfect reaction. Getting the Warp Prism as well, every single time herO he has a Warp Prism on the map that he can do a little bit of harassment with and reinforce as soon as he wants to attack without having to proxy any panels.
He evacuated from the main base there, so he didn't lose too much from Widow Mines, I believe, as he sent everything down towards the natural. But the thing is that herO, he still isn't really losing workers to anything that's coming along his way. So all of this aggressive maneuvering that FanTaSy
the drop
has
in the
committed.
natural gets defended.
Oh my god.
Doesn't lose anything. Oh, gets a few probes, okay. Drilling Claws definitely help, but I mean, 1 Medivac and 2 Widow Mines for 4 probes?
4.
Is that really worth it? I don't think so.
No, not really. He still needs to slow him down. But he's just not getting anything done at all. I mean, only FanTaSy now, with these 2 extra barracks being added on, is only just hitting his stride in production of his army, whereas Colossi are already coming out, Todd. It's...
Especially if herO goes for his usual timing here. It's going to be so hard for FanTaSy to keep up supply-wise to be able to hold. I mean, you can get some Widow Mines, it's cute and all, but in defense against Blink Stalkers and Colossus, they're not going to do that much. And we see now...
It's going to be the gateways.
The gateway explosion, KLRs, that's how you call it.
Kaboom! It's going to be a bit scary here for FanTaSy to really do anything against.
Only going up to 6 here so far. Before herO, when he went for the timing that he lacked to use in the previous games, he went for 8, but he's already on 49 probes, so he might just be comfortable with, I guess, taking 1 more Nexus and taking things a little bit slower here if he wanted to.
4 Widow Mines in that medevac. It's quite the commitment as
Actually,
well.
Scratch that, he added 2 more gates at his natural.
All right.
So it's going to be the traditional 8 gateways. Wow, FanTaSy.
Pick him up.
Run away.
Pick him up. Oh, warped extras. Oh, Nasta get away from there. Oh, almost got that in the end. He might come back, but
that's
like
Sergeant Hammer right there.
Suppose so.
Couldn't thrust her away from that Zealot.
I was going to say,
Artenis.
Sergeant Hammer usually dies. But anyway, herO here just gearing up. How many Colossi? He has 2 at the moment. He's going to have a 3rd with this, and there's going to be 0 Vikings once again from FanTaSy. It's going to be all about the counterattacks again.
herO is he's going to start the 3rd Nexus here, I think, no matter what. Because he's got enough minerals anyway.
He's got probes on the way as well.
I just want to attack, yeah. 1 on each side as well. He's got a plan A, that's the Warp Prism, a plan B and a plan C, that's these 2 probes in terms of warping across the map, but 2-2 starts.
So maybe there is a commitment here to a longer game here from herO.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that this is such a huge map that if your opponent is already geared up for some kind of base trade, then it's very difficult.
herO shouldn't, he doesn't need to attack. He shouldn't attack. There was no 3rd Command Center. You attack against a 3rd Command Center when you've got way more army than your opponent. I think right now, herO realized the army count was going to be even. And there was no reason for him to attack, so he just went for 2-2. He's going to delay his own 3rd Nexus a little bit, but it's going to be okay as long as he can defend against those Medivac drops.
And surely, I mean, this in the current state of the game, this only helps out herO because FanTaSy's upgrades are significantly lacking behind a double Forge upgrading with potential double Chrono Boost going into it, which is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be detrimental here in this game for herO to reach these upgrades much earlier. I mean, at this point, he's going to be 2-2 against just 1-0. This is absolutely massive.
16-18 go down! That Widow Mines with Drilling Claws plummets the probe count here for herO. He goes down quite significantly. That's exactly what FanTaSy needed to try and keep going with this. And the Widow Mines are still, one still lingering around on the ramp.
Yeah, those Widow Mines certainly drilled a hole in herO's economy.
Yeah, just a bit.
No pun intended.
But yeah,
we need to raise the level of cringe, okay? Like, it's not been enough. But herO is now moving across the map. He's warping in a lot of Stalkers. He's up to 19 with 4 Colossi. And we've got 0 Vikings. It's one of those games.
Oh, what a surprise.
0 Vikings here from FanTaSy.
Who would have guessed?
He loved the previous game making Vikings. He said never again.
Those Stalkers went pretty far forwards there, though, without the complementing of the Colossi, even, I should say. 3rd base is going to have to be evacuated once again. I think that dies, actually, to these Stalkers.
There's way too many Stalkers for these to stay alive.
Yeah, and there's the pickup again. You can see the pickup already going to the left-hand side here. He's just going to... Actually, he could try and swing in against this. 112 army supply against 96. If he got a good angle here, He's going to try and drop on the Colossi maybe. He was focusing down the Medivacs. The Honest, the Widow Mines here that were in all of that. And they don't even get a chance to burrow.
The defense was perfect here from herO, pulling back, sniping on those Widow Mines and Medivacs. And now FanTaSy is getting chased. Force fields are going to come into play as well.
Another Colossi comes along with this. This is not good for FanTaSy at all. Yes, he did a big damage over the other side. But now, oh, well, this is just going to get ransacked. And he's warping in right next to this natural location.
He's going to drop on top of this, I think.
What?
Oh, no, he's going across the map. No, he's hesitating.
He
comes
can't.
back.
It's too far.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do.
He's going to lose everything before he even gets there.
He's got a huge chunk of army across the map. If he lets no problem, well, I guess there's still one on the map.
Oh, the SCVs are all going to get slaughtered as well, and the command center is going to fall. There's nothing he has.
herO going straight for the jugular here, sniping all of these SCVs, getting the orbital as well. FanTaSy's economy is going to be in shambles. He's not going to be able to evacuate with, I think, any SCV. No, he's got one out on the map. He's got one SCV out on the map, but I mean, this has to kill herO here right now across the map.
Some units been walked in for herO for the defense here. It's not going to make too much of a big difference, but there goes the recall. He doesn't care if he's recalling on top of this, but he's losing a few of the Colossi as they recall in, but he's going to kill off the rest of the army anyway by the looks of things. There's no room for FanTaSy to move around here, and herO is ripping it apart. GG, he takes the series 3-1, and he advances to the round of 8 here at the Global Finals after base trade after base trade after base trade.
A fantastic series here out of him. FanTaSy did what he could, but in the end, just not solid enough here for a player of the caliber of herO.
Everything for FanTaSy seemed pitted on the hopes of saying, okay, I never think I'm going to be able to take a straight engage against the army compositions that you are going to be bringing, and I'm just going to try and go over the other side of the map. But when you're on Cactus Valley, when you get caught at that position all the way that far, look how long it took for those units to get over the other side.
In map number 1, it really felt like FanTaSy was on top of his Viking game, you know, not making a single one and realizing how he had to play to win it. But then herO, from map number 2, he was like, all right, enough is enough. Like, I've let you win one map. Now we're going to play the real StarCraft, the one where I don't lose to Terran and I don't lose to you. Yeah. And in the end, good enough decisions, good enough everything. herO secures the first best of 5 here in the round of 16.
All right, well, good to be back to casting some StarCraft for sure. But for now, let's head over to Chobra, who's with our winner advancing on to the round of 8.
And here we are in the very first match of the round of 16. FanTaSy tried so hard, but in the end, didn't even matter. herO moves on, going to the quarterfinals. Now, herO, of course, the first 2 maps were very intense. I think all the viewers at home were thinking this is a little crazy for the very beginning of BlizzCon, where the global finals. I'm just wondering what was going through your head. 그럼 저희 첫 경기도 물론 이제 좀 완전 게임이 좀 이상한 방향으로 가다가 이제 패배로 끝났지만 두 번째 게임도 거의 무승부로 끝나지 않을까 염려하는 팬들이 많았어요. 경기를 하고 계셨을 때는 어떤 생각이 드셨어요?
일단 첫 번째 경기는 솔직히 엘리전 할 상황도 아니었는데 그렇게 돼서 많이 안타까웠고 뭔가 그렇게 될 것 같았는데 이 경기에서는 절대 엘리전이 제가 불리한 엘리전이 아니라고 생각했어요.
Yeah, the first game, it should have never gone to that point. I let it slip, so, you know, it is what it is. I felt a little bad. But the second game, I was like, all right, we're not repeating that again, and I was very confident that we weren't going to get to that point. So it was, you know, it was all right. It went through pretty smoothly. And now, of course, then the other big thing about herO this tournament is that you're so far ahead in WCS points, like way ahead of anybody else. This is the biggest differential we've seen between the first place and 16th place. Does that give you a bit more of a confidence boost, or does it not matter since now we're here and everyone's in the round of 16? 그럼 저희 이번 대회를 시작할 때 블리즈컨 최대로 이제 포인트를 얻으셨고 들어올 때 그 누구보다도 포인트가 지금 좀 많이 갖고 들어오셨잖아요. 근데 그게 이제 16강을 시작할 때 그러니까 훨씬 더 자신감이 있다 그런 느낌이 드시나요? 아니면 16강을 시작한 이후로는 뭐 어차피 1위든 16위든 결국에는 결승까지 가야 되니까 별로 큰 상관이 없다고 생각하세요?
네, 일단 포인트는 제가 노가다로 쌓은 거기 때문에 별 의미 없다고 생각하고 여기 와서 컨디션과 손의 상태가 중요한데 컨디션은 솔직히 잘 만들지 못했는데 손을 제가 잘 만들어 놔가지고 오늘 이길 수 있었던 것 같아요.
Yeah, so I'll be very honest, you know, getting the points, I kind of had to just play the war of attrition here to get that many points coming into the global finals. So I don't think that matters as much. For the round of 16, once it starts, it's more about how you're feeling here. Who's hot right now as they enter the competition? I don't think I'm feeling that great, but at the same time, I was warmed up pretty well. I played my hand fairly well in the round of 16, so still I would say, you know, we'd have to wait and find out how it's going to go. Then, of course, a big question, is there anyone you're particularly afraid of in the round of 16 or, you know, the other now 14 remaining players? 그럼 저희 이번 이제 16강 들어오면서 특별히 이 선수 하나는 만약 만나야 되면 결승까지 안 만났으면 좋겠다. 그런 선수가 계신가요?
팀원이라서 꺼려지는 것도 있긴 한데 지원이가 요새 물이 올라가지고 경기력도 좋아가지고 별로 만나고 싶지 않아요.
Well, for one, he is my teammate, and two, he's really on the rise right now in terms of momentum. So, Bill, I'm a little bit afraid. So, you know, if I can avoid him, I would want to avoid him as much as I can. Well, that's it from herO, our first quarterfinalist here, the WCS Global Finals at BlizzCon opening week.
Thank you very much, Billy Bob. An excellent performance by herO to open up the Global Finals. And that's what we expected to see, and that's what we did see at the end there. Even though the first game was a little bit rocky, losing map number 1, Roddy, he turned it around and he takes the series 3-1.
Yeah, I really think that 3-1 was in the line of prediction, right? Like 3-2 would have been a little closer than most people expected, but you don't expect any 3-0s, or at least not too many 3-0s at BlizzCon. So 3-1 was really the score that we would have all gone for, but it's more just the way that the series opened up. It's like, we're like, oh, what did we get started in over here, you know? And then even game 2 got very close, but in the end, herO did take care of business the way we expected him to.
So Prism that could. So this is, of course, the Windows 10 game DVR, where this was a crazy game number 2, and it was going in the way that game number 1 could have gone, TLO.
Yeah, it was just slight details when it comes to base rates like that. Tiny details really decide the whole game. There was a single warp prism that we're going to see that basically brought the probes back so herO could make a nexus, and that changes everything. If he snipes the warp prism, he takes the game.
Very important to mention, those were the only 8 probes that made it across the map. Like, those were literally
I
the
think
only...
there's no pylons even. Or
No,
anything like that,
no,
right?
and I mean, like, you're not going to get any probes down the ramp when there is a bio army standing there. Like, I've tried that many times, and everything dies. No matter how many probes you may transfer. So, very important move. And that's just a clutch decision as well. You know, we often talk about those high-tension scenarios. Can you keep your head cool? Like, I think about my War Prism sometimes, but by the time I think about my Prism, everything is died. It's like, oh, I could have used my Prism with herO, you know.
That could have been 2-0 for FanTaSy. And think about a 2-0 in a best of 5. But here we are, game 3. Probably too many Vikings, something that the cast is talking a lot about. And then, of course, mixing in DTs with the army, this was something that I think he kind of saw on the fly, where he's like, well, hang on, you're low econ. I've got that orbital up there. If I can have you not scan, I'm going to actually have a lot of DPS within this army. But honestly, it was the over-making of Vikings, which is so funny, because earlier in the series, by the way, FanTaSy goes from like 0 to 100. He's like, no Vikings. And then he's like, so many Vikings.
What did you think of the strategy here in the last game, Tilo?
Well, that was a little bit unfortunate how close that bunker didn't come to finish. It seemed like quite a greedy kind of build FanTaSy went to, trying to get those extremely quick drilling claws. I mean, herO didn't do any attack like that before, so it was a valid strategy trying to get ahead with a build order rather than just being a better player.
I want to be a little bit critical, though. Like, herO's micro is his forte. It's what he's really, really good at. And we had one Widowmine drop that killed 16 probes, but otherwise they all whiffed. And then this idea to load up 12 Widowmines and drop it on a 99% Stalker army is like so cool in theory and so cool if it works, but not a single Widowmine went off, and it's in the critical game.
I didn't like the execution so much either. Like, that was not the place to do that. So easy to just force feed the ramp, and then, like, if he comes from behind with the Medivacs, it's really good. But
it's
like
the
this,
wrong angle. You should have came from either the north or the south, or, you know, maybe even from the other side, but not from where he's in. He's flying right over the army, which gives herO 2 or 3 extra volleys. And that's just way too much.
But it's also kind of putting the whole game on the line of, like, herO, I need you to mess up your micro right now. And it's like, the road is paved with the souls of guys that are like, herO, I'm going to out-micro you. And he's like, go ahead and try, man. Like,
he's done this build before, though. The Index 3 Masters Gamescom, he did it a couple of times. And like you say, it's really cool when it works. It's very risky. I felt in this final game, things were kind of going his way. But I mostly agree here with Dario. That was just the wrong angle to fly in from. You can't fly, especially now with the force fields as well, over the entire army.
Do you agree with him agreeing with
I mean,
you?
you're the creative mind.
I'm not always disagreeing. There's when things are wrong.
There's a better way to execute that, right, Dario? There is ways to do that. Your creative mind probably saw multiple angles.
Solve that for us.
Well,
what would you do?
The thing is, on Cactus Valley, you need to fight at different locations. It's as soon as Protoss is close to those ramps, is almost impossible to fight because only 2 or 3 force fields cut it off entirely. So you want to kind of intercept the Protoss army on the outside of the map, or you want to fight at the side of Protoss and split them up. But if he has his entire army between your natural and your third, you can't fight anymore.
I just heard classical music as you spoke. It was so well said. Thank you, Dario.
I think he should have, though, to answer Dario's question for Dario, I think he should have came in with several command centers with SCVs, drop them off to distract them, and then also distract them with the command centers, then drop the Widow Mines.
Indeed.
Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah. Completely correct. I agree. I agree.
We can end segment. This is good. This is good. I'm happy.
The absolute last thing as well, I think whenever Terran opens up gas first, you always have to worry about the counterattack. That's like the most basic thing, especially when a map is as big as Cactus Valley. You know there's most likely a probe somewhere. You know there's most likely a pylon somewhere. You drop the mines, they defend. They test the waters on the other side of the map. Like, that is basic knowledge in TVP. And not having your bunker in time, like, yeah, it was really close, but still, it should have just been there.
But even if he did, it was 2 Marines, I think, and it would have died. There's no SCVs to repair it.
I think with 3-4 SCVs, as long as you can at least keep your orbital on the low ground, you morph it there, you build SCVs. Now you have to lift it up, fly it through your
I'm just speaking to it not completing. I think even if it completes, it still dies. In a different world, yes, he has more SCVs there, it's earlier, But it wasn't. It was by itself.
I think the tank was almost done. Like, so the bunker will finish, it buys a little bit of time, the tank is done, you can pull down some SCVs.
I think it's stabilized for sure.
And like I said, I agree with you guys. In a different world with different scenario. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Doing well, boys. Doing well.
Doing well on the couch. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It is time to prepare ourselves for the next game, which is going to be Bjol versus Classic. Do make sure to join us on social media. It's #WCS. And we are going to go to a very quick break. And when we come back, it is going to be the rematch from the Season 2 Star League quarterfinals, Bjol versus Classic.